Chapter 45. On the floating island in the heavens beyond heaven, the white clouds poured down like a waterfall into the lake below. The white-robed man stood tall, his sleeves fluttering in the wind. His hair was tied up with a small black sandalwood crown. When Su Junmo rushed over, the white-robed man had already been waiting for almost half an hour. "Master." He took a deep breath and bowed respectfully. "How is it?" The white-robed man did not turn around. His dark eyes were still looking at the unpredictable waterfall. The pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion promised to enter the Starfall Sea for 10 years. Su Junmo told him all the news he had heard. Oh, the white-robed man's expression did not change. The Falling Star Pavilion? He had heard of the #1 sword cultivator sect in the eastern border. Yes. Su Junmo said, for this year's Medical Cultivators Conference, the Falling Star Pavilion agreed to hold the conference in Descending Star City. Continue. The white-robed man still did not turn around. Su Junmo hesitated for a moment, but he still continued. I have seen Meng Qi from the Cool Breeze Valley. He went to the eastern border because his master asked him to deal with Si Kongyan and investigate Meng Qi. He was a little nervous and did not notice that the white-robed man's hands had stiffened. Su Junmo paused for a moment, then continued. She seems to be quite knowledgeable in the study of formations. I have seen the medicine knife that she made herself. The formation engraved on the knife is very similar to... At this point he fell silent. He didn't dare to continue. Even in the demon realm, he had only seen this array a few times. The formation was engraved under the celestial tree in the demon realm. Furthermore, it was the weapon in his master's hand, Sunset. I know about this. The white-robed man said. I have followed Meng Qi to Burnt City. She should be going to Descending Star City to participate in the Medical Cultivators Conference. Su Junmo continued. She is very obsessed with medicine. She will definitely not miss this event. Su Junmo hesitated for a moment. He looked at the tall and straight back of the white-robed man in front of him, gritted his teeth, and said, Meng Qi has a little white tiger with him. It is said that he picked up an injured exotic beast and wanted to raise it as a spiritual pet. Meng Qi dotes on the little white tiger and treats it very well, but... I understand. You don't have to worry about this. The white-robed man interrupted Su Junmo, which was a rare occurrence. He flicked his sleeves and asked, The Shui family has already reached the Burnt City? Yes. Su Junmo replied respectfully. Shui Qingxian is here personally. His father should be heading to Descending Star City at the start of the month. Let the Shui family bring their Shui family sutra. Go to Burnt City beyond heaven. I'll give you the command token to mobilize the 3rd team of the Dark Department. If necessary, you can get them to help you. Yes. Su Junmo didn't dare to ask any more questions. He bowed and left. He had too many questions in his heart, but he didn't dare to ask. The person who asked him to investigate Meng Qi was his lord, but he didn't seem to care about it now. So, Su Junmo was full of doubts, especially when he mentioned the little white tiger. Although he didn't see his lord's expression, he could clearly feel his awkwardness and stiffness. Could it be? Su Junmo suddenly widened his eyes, then quickly looked down to hide the surprise in his eyes. Could it be that he didn't see wrongly that day? The little white tiger's eyes were really the shadow of the Big Dipper. So what was the relationship between Meng Qi and the little white tiger? He picked it up. How could it be so easy to pick it up? Why couldn't he pick up the little white tiger? The more Su Junmo thought about it, the more he felt that his guess was right. Also, there was the Shui family sutra. Although the name was ordinary, it had always been in the hands of the Shui family's masters. It recorded all the medical skills of the Shui family that had been passed down for thousands of years. Why did his lord ask them to bring it to Descending Star City? Su Junmo felt that the answer was obvious. He didn't dare to continue thinking about it, so he hurriedly walked towards the teleportation portal on the floating island. He wondered if Meng Qi had sobered up. He originally wanted to follow her to see if she was all right, but he didn't expect to receive an urgent summons from his lord. Su Junmo stepped into the teleportation portal and appeared on the Xian floating island in a flash. He quickly walked towards the courtyard where Shui Jinwen lived alone. The girl in red was not in the room, but was sitting on the ground under the bamboo forest in the corner of the courtyard. There was a guqin in front of her, and her slender hands were gently strumming the strings. Hearing the footsteps, Xue Jinwen looked up at the door, and a look of surprise flashed across her eyes. "Fellow Taoist Su." She stood up, and the joy in her eyes disappeared. The corners of her lips curled up slightly, and her smile was as charming as ever. "Xue Jinwen." Su Junmo didn't stand on ceremony with her, and he took out a brocade pouch from his storage bag and passed it to her. "Mark this with your divine sense. Remember to go to the heavens beyond to retrieve it." "Thank you." Xue Jinwen clasped her hands and bowed to him. She followed his instructions and marked the brocade pouch. Inside were the items that she had asked Su Junmo to find for her. Although there were only 2 items, she was still very happy that he was willing to take her words to heart. "Oh yes." Su Junmo kept the brocade pouch. "Are you going to the Medical Cultivators Spiritual Conference next month?" Xue Jinwen's eyes dimmed, and she shook her head. "Big brother has already left for the burnt city. Father and the family elders will be heading to Descending Star City later." She paused and smiled. "But big sister and little sister will be going." "Tisk." Su Junmo shook his head. Xue Jinwen didn't know why he sighed. She thought for a while and asked, "What's the matter, Taoist Su?" "I've already met your big brother in the burnt city." Su Junmo didn't hide it from her. "He's with 2 people from the Morong family and the Wen family." "Yes." Xue Jinwen nodded. Many cultivators who were injured by vines suddenly appeared in the Huajiang Manor, which borders the western and eastern kingdoms. The Huajiang Manor sought help from the Wind Alliance, and because the injuries were too strange, Father sent Big Brother to check on them. Su Junmo was an important guest of the Wind Alliance when he was in the Western Kingdom. Moreover, it had already caused quite a stir in the Western Kingdom, so Xue Jinwen didn't have to hide it. Moreover, this heavenly demon cultivator from the demon realm was very knowledgeable, and had helped the Wind Alliance and the Xue family a lot. She didn't know how Big Brother was doing, and Su Junmo might be able to help. Su Junmo was stunned. "Injured by vines?" "Yes." Xue Jinwen nodded. "Your big brother didn't mention this." Su Junmo's brows furrowed slightly. "I should go." He turned and walked out of the courtyard. Xue Jinwen looked at his retreating figure, and her gaze gradually became determined. She turned and put away the guqin that was placed at the side. Then she closed the door, and walked towards the transportation formation. When Mengqi woke up, her head still hurt. She opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling, and didn't realize where she was for a long time. The furnishings in the room gradually became clear, and the things that happened before she fell asleep slowly returned to her mind. Burnt City, Rue Lane, Shueqingxian. Then there was that cup of sweet and delicious wine that was obviously very strong. Mengqi sat up in frustration, and hit her head. Did she really pass out with just 1 cup? She didn't drink much, but she was a foundational cultivator. Mengqi narrowed her eyes slightly. There seemed to be sorrow's flower, hibiscus tooth, snow fox orchid, and other spiritual flowers in the wine. She didn't pay much attention when she drank it, but now that she thought about it, there should be more than 10 kinds of spiritual flowers in that cup of wine. No wonder she couldn't resist it at all. She didn't know if she did anything strange when she was drunk. Mengqi shook her head. She remembered that Xue Chengxian said something about the medical cultivation assembly, but after that, she became a little confused. YYXS. La few fragments occasionally flashed through her mind. She seemed to have gone to the heavens beyond heaven. Mengqi looked down blankly, and looked at the heavens beyond heaven jade scroll that she held tightly in her palm. Did she go to see Sister Xue Jinwen? And then? She blinked her eyes. What else happened? Mengqi. Mengqi was a little lost in thought when there were 3 knocks on the door. Qin Xiuma's voice came from outside. "Are you awake?" "Yes." Mengqi opened her mouth and found that her voice was a little hoarse. Not only that, but her eyelids also hurt a little. "I'm coming in?" Qin Xiuma asked again. "Wait a moment." Mengqi took a deep breath and jumped off the bed. There was a dressing table in the room with a mirror embedded in it. Mengqi walked over quickly and looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair was a little messy, but it was okay. Why were her eyes swollen? She leaned closer and found that her eyelids were clearly red and swollen. Did she cry? No wonder her eyelids hurt. Not only was she drunk, but she also cried. She was a little embarrassed. Why did she cry when she was drunk? She couldn't remember how long it had been since she cried. Just then, a rustling sound came from behind Ming Qi. She turned around and met the little white tiger's blue eyes. Little Qi, good morning. Although she knew that she shouldn't have lost her composure in front of little Qi, she still greeted the little white tiger awkwardly. The little white tiger lay down lazily and turned its head to the side. Ming Qi? Qin Xiuma's voice came again. Are you done? Right away. Ming Qi cast a spell and washed her appearance simply. She took out a small bottle from her storage bag and poured out some powder to gently rub on her swollen eyelids. The cool feeling instantly replaced some of the pain. When she looked in the mirror again, she was back to normal. Please come in. Ming Qi put away the porcelain bottle and turned to open the door for Qin Xiuma. The young man in black stood at the door. When the door opened, his gaze landed directly on Ming Qi's face. Are you awake? He asked. Ming Qi. He saw through it but didn't say it out loud. Qin Xiuma's lips curled up quickly. He looked at the slender and elegant girl in front of him who was a little embarrassed. Are you still going to look for the jade cicada vine? Yes. Ming Qi suddenly remembered. Yes, she did go to the heavens beyond heaven to look for the cold jade box to store the jade cicada vine. Wait a moment. Ming Qi quickly said. I still need to take something. As she spoke, she closed the door again and entered the heavens beyond heaven with the jade slip in her hand. The door of Xue Jinwen's courtyard was tightly shut. Ming Qi was about to contact the other party through her nameplate when Xiang Linma quickly walked towards her. Fellow Taoist, are you here to look for third young lady Xue? Fellow Taoist Xiang. Ming Qi nodded at him. She said she had something urgent and wouldn't come to the heavens beyond heaven for a few days. Before she left, she told me to give you these if you came to look for her. Xiang Linma took out a brocade pouch and handed it to Ming Qi. Thank you. Ming Qi made a divine sense mark on the brocade pouch. Third young lady Xue said you would get it by tomorrow at the latest. Xiang Linma smiled at Ming Qi. I hope it won't delay your business. He paused and asked again. Have you heard about the Medical Cultivators Dharma Conference? I wonder if fellow Taoists will be there? Yes, Ming Qi said. That's great. Xiang Linma immediately smiled and cupped his hands at Ming Qi. I heard that the top medical cultivation sects in the 4 realms will attend this Medical Cultivators Dharma Conference. The once-in-a-decade Medical Cultivators competition will also be held as scheduled. Xiang Linma was a little embarrassed. I'll try to participate. Third young lady Xue and fellow Taoists don't need to, but if we meet in Descending Star City, I hope we can have a drink together. Ming Qi smiled. Okay, then it's settled. Xiang Linma clapped his hands excitedly. When the time comes, invite third young lady Xue, and we'll meet in Descending Star City. He cupped his hands at Ming Qi again, and turned back to his small courtyard. Ming Qi also quickly turned around, and walked toward the teleportation array. So she really came to sky beyond heaven. Why did she feel that something else happened besides asking Sister Xue for help? Ming Qi walked toward the teleportation array in a daze. On the floating island with the Xian word, there were still many cultivators from various sects waiting for the rabbit. Other than that, everything seemed so quiet and nothing unusual. Perhaps he was too drunk to think straight. Ming Qi looked up at the sky. Above the blue sky, the floating islands, each larger than the last, were still quietly floating in the air. At the highest point, the first island that seemed a little special was still floating leisurely on the other side of sky beyond Heaven City, some distance away from the remaining 6 floating islands. It seemed so aloof and independent. Ming Qi shook her head again. She must be drunk. She stepped into the teleportation array. When the light lit up, some messy fragments suddenly flashed in her mind. Cloud waterfall, bamboo, the sky that was very close, and the white-robed man's warm and strong embrace. But those images flashed too quickly. Before Ming Qi could catch anything, they flashed in her mind. She returned to the room in Rosy Lane, and looked down at the jade scroll in her hand. Why did she feel that after she was drunk, she seemed to have dreamed of her master? Yes. And it was a very real master. With a straight face, he refused to admit that he was her disciple's master. Even his tone seemed so real. In any case, he insisted that he was not her master. But he had taught her so much. Meng-Chi flipped her hand and kept the jade scroll in her storage bag. Alchemy arrays, cultivation arrays, and all kinds of spells. As long as it was something that he knew, Meng-Chi would teach her everything. He also never laughed at her whimsical ideas. Instead, he would ponder with her and try his best to turn her ideas into reality. Meng-Chi flipped her hand and kept the jade scroll in her storage bag. She knew why he didn't recognize her as his disciple. It was because her cultivation talent was too poor. And her master was a genius who had the ability to change the world. Of course, he didn't want to accept a disciple who was so stupid that she had to rely on his help to form her gold core. It didn't matter. She would always remember the day she met her master. And she would also remember that place. Before that, she would work very hard to cultivate. She would never embarrass him again. In her previous life, she spent so many spirit stones and natural treasures on her master. In this life, she would pay him back. Meng-Chi instantly pulled herself together and opened the door full of energy. Qin Xiaoma was still outside the door. He looked at her up and down with a dark face. So mysterious. Yes. Meng-Chi glanced at him and answered matter-of-factly. Qin Xiaoma owed her so many spirit stones. Now that she was selling herself to pay off the debt, she had no intention of explaining herself to him. Qin Xiaoma's face turned even colder. Are you still going? Where are you going? Before Meng-Chi could answer, the door of another room in the courtyard suddenly opened. Su Junmo's voice floated out before he came out. It just so happens that I have nothing to do today. This is my first time in Burnt City, so I'll go with you. If you need my help, don't hesitate. I'll help you. Qin Xiaoma's face turned even darker. Meng-Chi didn't look any better. The two of them looked at each other. It was rare for them to have a tacit understanding on this matter. Why are you standing in front of Meng-Chi's door? By the way, Meng-Chi, do you have a headache? I forgot to tell you yesterday that the wine in Rosy Lane has a strong after effect. No, I didn't have time to tell you. You drank it all in one gulp. Su Junmo muttered as he walked towards Meng-Chi. He actually had more to say, but he didn't dare to reveal a single word. He could only ramble on about other things. By the way, Xue Qingxian seems to be waiting for Chu Tianfeng. I heard that the young palace master of Burning Sky Palace went into seclusion after returning to Burnt City. He should come out today. Should we also visit him? If Meng-Chi has any problems in Burnt City, it should be much easier to ask him for help. Meng-Chi. Speaking of Burnt City, I suddenly remembered our demon realm. Do you know that the demon realm is divided into 9 heavens? There is also a city called Burnt City in the 3rd heaven. Yes, you guessed right. It's the territory of Sikong Yan's Red Fox clan. In ancient times, our demon realm ancestors once killed the divine devouring vine. The bastards of the Red Fox clan secretly hid the last seed of the divine devouring vine in the heavenly fire prison of Burnt City. The heavenly fire there isolated the spirit chi and hid it from our ancestors, allowing this evil thing to be preserved. Meng-Chi. She turned around and quickly walked out of the courtyard. She had never been so eager to become stronger. At least, she could become stronger than Fox Su and seal his mouth with one move. Qin Xiaoma wasn't any better. He quickly followed Meng-Chi with a dark face. But both of them knew that no matter how fast they walked, Su Junmo's figure flashed, and he had already caught up. Speaking of the Red Fox clan, there is a legend in the demon realm. It is said that the Red Fox clan is full of beauties, and the number 1 beauty in the demon realm is often from the Red Fox clan. 9,000 years ago, the patriarch of the Crimson Fox clan was a ravishing beauty. She secretly bred the divine devouring vine. Divine devouring vine? A clear male voice interrupted Su Junmo's endless words. Xue Qingxian was still dressed in a blue robe. He stood elegantly outside the courtyard where Meng-Chi and the others lived. He looked at Su Junmo in surprise, then looked at Meng-Chi and Qin Xiaoma. Brother Su, did you just say the divine devouring vine? Su Junmo pondered and slowly nodded. Yes. Meng Qi heaved a long sigh of relief. She turned to look at Xue Qingxian. Her impression of this young medical cultivator was even better. I was too reckless. Xue Qingxuan's eyes were filled with unconcealable worry. This time, my 2 junior brothers and I came to Burnt City because of the divine devouring vine. He paused and said, recently, dozens of cultivators were injured by the vines in the Huajiang Manor, which is the closest to the east. Their injuries were not serious, but green vines grew out of their bodies half a month ago. When my 2 junior brothers and I went to check, 8 of them had their spirit qi sucked dry by the vines and became zombies. Su Junmo's eyes turned cold. Huajiang Manor. Yes. Xue Qingxian nodded. I have never seen such injuries in the 3,000 worlds. I also looked through the ancient records and found the relevant records. I wanted to ask Brother Su yesterday, but Brother Su left because he had urgent matters to attend to. We came to Burnt City to find the young palatial lord of the Burning Sky Palace. It is said that not long ago, he saw the divine devouring vine injuring people with his own eyes. Su Junmo hurriedly looked at Meng Qi and said with a serious expression, "Are you sure it was the divine devouring vine?" If the ancient records are correct, the divine devouring vine is correct. I used pills to temporarily suppress the divine devouring vine in the injured people's bodies, and rushed to Burnt City to find young palatial Lord Chu. Su Junmo's expression became even more serious. He looked at Meng Qi again. If it were someone else, he might directly say that Meng Qi could save people. However, this was the woman that his master cared about, so he did not dare to do so. Fellow Taoist Xue. Meng Qi took the initiative to ask, how far is Huajiang Manor from here? Xue Qingxian was stunned. Before he could answer, he suddenly heard the sound of wind. Not far away, a young man in black walked toward them with big strides. Brother Xue. Chu Tianfeng had already taken the initiative to greet Xue Qingxian before he reached them. He had just come out of seclusion and completed a small cultivation level. When he heard that Xue Qingxian had personally come to Burnt City to find him, he hurriedly rushed over. In the 3,000 worlds, strength was the most important thing. Although Dharma cultivators and sword cultivators were still respected, the person who had the most hope of becoming the future Alliance Master of the Wind Alliance would be treated with respect wherever he went. Chu Tianfeng was no exception. When he walked over from Rosy Lane's courtyard, Meng Qi and Qin Xiaoma happened to be standing behind the courtyard wall. Chu Tianfeng was still behind the courtyard door, so he did not see them. He walked directly toward Xue Qingxian. As he walked, he quickly said, "I've already heard about what happened in Huajiang Manor. If Brother Xue can really confirm that the person who injured people was the divine devouring vine, don't worry. I know a medical cultivator who can treat the divine devouring vine's injuries." Xue Qingxian was a little surprised, but he still cupped his hands toward Chu Tianfeng. "Not only Brother Chu, who is the medical cultivator that you're talking about? I'll personally pay a visit." Chu Tianfeng waved his hand and said, "She's not from the Burning Sky Palace." His eyes were bright, and his voice was a little excited. "Leave this matter to me. I'll also pay for all the spirit stones needed to treat the person." "How can I do that?" Xue Qingxian said. "As long as Brother Chu can introduce me to this senior, I'll personally go and invite her. The herbs and spirit stones needed should naturally be." No. Chu Tianfeng waved his hand repeatedly. "I'll pay for all the spirit stones. I'll pay all of them." As he spoke, the corners of his lips curled up. "She should also be in the Burning City. I've already instructed my disciples to pay attention. As long as she's here, I'll..." Chu Tianfeng. Qin Xiaoma could not stand it anymore. This guy clearly wanted to owe a bunch of spirit stones and refused to pay them back. He wanted to rely on Meng Qi just like that. Too shameless. He would never allow such a thing to happen. Chu Tianfeng suddenly turned around, his eyes instantly brightening. "Meng Qi." He did not even look at Qin Xiaoma as he strode toward Meng Qi. "You've already arrived in the Burning City? When did you arrive?" "Oh right." Chu Tianfeng remembered the important matter and hurriedly turned to look at Xue Qingxian. "Let me introduce you. Meng Qi, This is Xue Qingxian, Brother Xue from the West Kingdom, Wind Alliance. He paused and said, Brother Xue, this is Meng Qi. Chu Tianfeng did not mention anything about the Cool Breeze Valley. She's the medical cultivator I mentioned just now, the one who can treat the divine devouring vine. Not only Xue Qingxian, but Morong Fei, and when he also looked at Meng Qi in surprise. Foundation Establishment Cultivator. Was Chu Tianfeng sure he was not joking? Su Junmo thought for a while and said, I can testify that she can save them. Chapter 46. For a moment, even Xue Qingxian did not speak. He looked at Meng Qi. He did not expect that the girl he found interesting yesterday was the person he came to Burnt City to find. But this Foundation Establishment cultivator, Xue Qingxuan's expression was not as obvious as Morong Fei's and Wen He's. He bowed to Meng Qi and said with a smile, Fellow Taoist Meng Qi is so kind. I admire you. Fellow Taoist Xue, you flatter me. Meng Qi returned the bow. How did you treat the divine devouring vine's injury? Chu Tianfeng was the one who said that Meng Qi could treat the divine devouring vine's injury. Su Junmo was the one who testified for her. Xue Qingxian absolutely trusted these two people. He did not doubt the authenticity of the matter at all, and politely did not ask how Meng Qi, a Foundation Establishment cultivator, did it. Brother Xue. Su Junmo's heart suddenly moved. Although I'm not a medical cultivator, I know the rules of communication between medical cultivators. Yes. Xue Qingxian nodded with a smile and admitted straightforwardly. I forgot and broke the rules. The most confused one was Meng Qi. She was an orthodox medical cultivator, but after leaving Cool Breeze Valley in her previous life, she did not join any other sect. After that, she followed her master most of the time. Her master was very powerful and had always been carefree and unrestrained. Not to mention the various rules of medical cultivators, he had never asked Meng Qi to follow the rules that should be followed between master and disciple. Of course, it was also because she had never really agreed to acknowledge Meng Qi as her disciple. Xue Qingxian pondered for a moment. Fellow Taoist, you can treat the divine devouring vine's injury. Even in the Trichiliocosm, your knowledge is extensive. I think you don't lack cultivation technique books. He paused and looked up at Meng Qi. Meng Qi had lived for 2 lifetimes. In front of this successor groomed by the Wind Alliance, she could not hide her thoughts. Xue Qingxian could tell at a glance that this girl probably did not know about the rules that Su Junmo mentioned. He did not intend to take advantage of Meng Qi in this matter. Instead, he smiled and explained calmly, 2,000 years ago, the demon realm suddenly invaded through the Starfall Sea. In a short period of time, the 3,000 worlds were plunged into misery and suffering, and countless practitioners died. Fellow Taoist, I'm sure you still remember that when the catastrophe happened, countless sects were destroyed overnight. Medical cultivators, in particular, had lower self-preservation abilities than Dharma cultivators and sword cultivators. Later on, although the devil realm was driven away by us, there were still countless magic arts and pill formulas that were lost. The great path of medical cultivation had regressed by at least 1,000 years. Meng Qi nodded. Of course she knew about it. In the entire 3,000 worlds, there was no one who did not know what had happened 2,000 years ago. It was said that back then, the sun and moon were almost dyed red by the blood of the cultivators. The few sects closest to the Starfall Sea were wiped out overnight, and even their inheritances disappeared from the 3,000 worlds. The losses were so heavy that even now, many practitioners would sigh when they mentioned it. Not only Meng Qi, but even Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma's expressions became gloomy. They came from large sects that had a history of thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. What happened back then was recorded in the history books of their respective sections. Later, the 4 realms of the 3,000 worlds joined forces, and even the demon realm sent sky demons into the 3,000 worlds to help. The devil realm was utterly defeated and almost completely wiped out. They had indeed won, but the sect had also lost countless powerful elders during the demonic realm's invasion. The dead would never come back, and the destroyed sects disappeared in the long river of history. Those inheritances were also broken. Xue Qingxian sighed softly and continued. Not long after we drove away the invaders of the Devil Realm, the medical cultivation sects of the four realms came forward and formed an alliance. They set the rules and held a medical cultivation conference once every 10 years. In order to prevent such a thing from happening again, they wanted to use the medical cultivation conference to promote communication between medical cultivators and the sections. Even if such a thing happens again, some inheritances, cultivation techniques, and pill formulas will not be lost just like that. Mengqi nodded heavily. The seniors are kind and farsighted. It's admirable. She had never been to a medical cultivation conference before, and had very little interaction with the orthodox medical cultivators of the 3,000 worlds. No one in the Cool Breeze Valley had ever taught her this. In her previous life, after Mengqi saved Chu Tianfeng, she was quickly wrongly imprisoned, and did not have the chance to interact with Elder Yan. Thus, when she was preparing to leave the Cool Breeze Valley, Elder Yan would give her all the records of his medical travels. Although it was in exchange for the method to treat the injuries of the divine devouring vine, Mengqi knew that he was just looking for an excuse. She thought for a while, and took out a bamboo scroll from her storage bag. Soft light quickly enveloped it, and she quickly wrote down the method to treat the injuries of the divine devouring vine. The divine devouring vine is actually not difficult to treat. Mengqi gradually placed the scroll in Xue Qingshuan's hands and said generously, "Fellow Taoist Xue comes from a prestigious sect, and his cultivation level and knowledge are far better than mine. He only needs to spend some time to find a treatment method. It's just that the injured cultivators can't wait." Xue Qingxian was a little moved. He looked at the bamboo scroll in his hands in a daze, and then looked up at Mengqi. The girl's eyes were bright, and she looked elegant. He recalled what she had said yesterday. That kind of open-minded and calm appearance really seemed like someone who would do such a thing. Fellow Taoist Meng. Xue Qingxian did not know whether to laugh or cry. "I'm not." He really did not intend to use such a method to move Mengqi, and make her take the initiative to give the method to treat the injuries of the divine devouring vine. He was Xue Qingxian sighed softly and continued. "After the medical cultivators' Dharma conference was established, we set the rules. When medical cultivators exchange cultivation techniques and treatment methods, regardless of whether it's between sects or individuals, the party that initiates the exchange must use a cultivation technique of double the value of the exchange. Also, the other party cannot be forced to make the exchange." After he finished speaking, he took out 2 bamboo scrolls from his storage bag and handed them to Mengqi with both hands. "Fellow Taoist Meng, you're so kind. I can't break the medical cultivators' Dharma conference's rules. These are the Silver Moon Sword diagram and the 9 Yang Restoration Pills pill formulas." Xue Qingxian looked at Mengqi and said, "Although the Silver Moon Sword diagram is a sword technique, it's very suitable for the medicine knives we use. The 9 Yang Restoration Pills formula is modified from the Yang Restoration Pills foundation, and its medicinal effects are stronger. I'll use it to exchange for the method to treat the injuries of the divine devouring vine. If fellow Taoist Meng is not satisfied, you can also exchange for something else." Big Brother Xue, Murong Fei and Wen He's expressions changed when they heard the words 9 Yang Restoration Pill and Silver Moon Sword diagram. The two of them called out Xue Qingxian at the same time, wanting to dissuade him. These 2 items did not belong to the Wind Alliance or the Xue family. The Silver Moon Sword diagram was the sword technique that Xue Qingxian practiced. When he went out to train in his early years, he coincidentally discovered it when he was picking herbs in a deep valley. It was unknown which senior had left it behind, but it seemed to be tailor-made for the medicine knives used by medical cultivators. Xue Qingxian relied on the Silver Moon Sword diagram. Over the years, not only medical cultivators, but many sword cultivators had also sought him for guidance. In the end, they were all defeated by him. He gave it away just like that. They had only met this Mengqi yesterday. Furthermore, he was really a foundation establishment cultivator. They did not know if the method to treat the divine devouring vine would work. As for the 9 Yang Restoration Pill, it was also an improved formula that Xue Qingxian had based on the Xue family's Yang Restoration Pill. According to the Wind Alliance's rules, the person who improved the formula had the rights to the pill formula. he could give it to the sect in exchange for sect contribution points. In addition, all sect disciples who wanted to learn this pill formula in the future had to spend a certain amount of sect contribution points to exchange for the pill formula. 80% of the sect contribution points that these disciples spent would go to the person who improved the pill formula. In a large sect like the Wind Alliance, sect contribution points could be used to do many things. Some rare treasures of heaven and earth, as well as precious magic arts and pill recipes, could be exchanged with sect contribution points. In Morong Fei and Wen He's eyes, although the 9-yang restoration pill formula was precious, it was not as valuable as the Silver Moon Sword diagram. Xue Qingxian had not given the Silver Moon Sword diagram to the sect yet, and none of the Wind Alliance disciples had learned it. Now he was actually going to give it to this Foundation Establishment cultivator that he had only known for a day. How could they not be shocked? Meng Qi looked up at Morong Fei, and Wen He before looking at the bamboo scroll in Xue Qingxuan's hand. It's too precious. She reached out and picked up the bamboo scroll with the 9-yang restoration pill formula. One is enough. Her cultivation talent was very ordinary. No matter how hard she tried to learn offensive spells and sword techniques, her progress was slow. Seeing Morong Fei and the others' nervous expressions, and the Silver Moon Sword diagram sounded very powerful, she should not waste it. Fellow Taoist Meng, Xue Qingxian smiled bitterly. As the eldest son of the Wind Alliance's Xue family, the rules of the Medical Cultivation Conference cannot be broken. He reached out and covered his left hand with his sleeve, holding Meng Qi's hand through the sleeve. I hope fellow Taoist Meng can help, Xue Qingxian said as he put the 2 bamboo scrolls in her hand. When he held Meng Qi's hand, Qin Xiaoma, Chu Tianfeng, and even Su Junmo stepped forward at the same time. The 3 of them stared at Xue Qingxuan's hand with burning eyes. In an instant, Qin Xiaoma's life-bond sword floated in the air and made a clang sound. Su Junmo hesitated. Wasn't Xue Qingxian a gentleman? What did he want to do? Was he going to make a move on the future demon empress in front of him? Should I just kill him? Chu Tianfeng's expression changed. His eyes moved quickly between Meng Qi's face and Xue Qingxuan's hand. His right index finger and thumb were already clasped, ready to attack at any time. However, before they could move, Xue Qingxian had already let go of Meng Qi's hand and retreated a few steps. He held the bamboo scrolls that Meng Qi gave him and quickly skimmed through the contents. His eyes flashed slightly. Morong Fei, and when he looked at Meng Qi vigilantly, they were waiting for Xue Qingxian to show a trace of suspicion. Then they could immediately control this little foundation-building cultivator. What a clever idea! Xue Qingxian opened his eyes in surprise. This fellow Taoist Meng is not only kind, but also intelligent. I really admire you. Even Zhuji Xiuzhe could use this kind of method. The heartbreaking spell is a bit troublesome. However, there are other ways to hunt the 5 elements green crane and make the 5 elements spiritual power in its blood immortal. Meng Qi was also curious. What is it? Use the Mahayana illusion spell. Xue Qingxian was just about to take the bamboo scrolls when he suddenly remembered and said guiltily, I'm sorry, fellow Taoist Meng. This is the spell of the Wind Alliance. I can't give it to people casually. He explained, once the Mahayana illusion spell reaches the realm, it can keep the spiritual power in the strange beast's body immortal. It's very useful. Besides, Xue Qingxian thought for a moment. Foundation-building cultivators can refine the Mahayana illusion powder, which has a similar effect. However, this is also the recipe of the Wind Alliance. I can't give it to fellow Taoist Meng. I see. Meng Qi was not interested in the Silver Moon Sword diagram that Morong Fei and the others were so nervous about. Now that she heard the name of the Mahayana illusion powder, her face was full of yearning. Yes. Xue Qingxian said. We're going to Huajiang Mansion now. If fellow Taoist Meng has nothing to do, why don't we go together? On the way, we can also discuss how to treat the injuries of the divine devouring vines. It's not convenient for me to reveal the sex pill recipes, but I can make some decisions. If fellow Taoist Meng wants to know, I'll definitely tell you everything I know. Okay. Qin Xiaoma and Chu Tianfeng did not have time to stop him. Meng Qi had already nodded happily. Xue Chengxian took out a wooden boat from his storage bag and threw it out casually. The small boat seemed to expand with the wind and instantly became a tall boat that could carry dozens of people. Fellow Taoist Meng, please. Xue Chengxian waved his hand and invited Meng Qi to board the boat first. Then it was Su Zhenmo, Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma. Xue Chengxian was the last to board the boat. With a light flick of his finger, more than 10 fourth-grade spirit stones flew to the bottom of the boat. The spirit stones flickered, and the boat soared into the sky and flew toward Huajiang Mansion in the distance. Fellow Taoist Meng, you added the 5-element green crane blood. Let me see. Silk twining fruit, Tianluo crystal. It's indeed ingenious. Xue Chengxian and Meng Qi stood side by side on the deck of the boat. Xue Chengxian was still holding the bamboo scroll. As he read, he sighed softly. I've only seen records of the divine devouring vine in books. I think I've seen many records related to it. If I were to think of a treatment method in a hurry, I'm afraid it wouldn't be so perfect. Su Zhenmo. Once he boarded the boat, he stubbornly went to Meng Qi's side to supervise the two of them on behalf of his master. He had known Xue Chengxian for a long time. This eldest son of the Xue family was not only talented and intelligent, but he was also diligent and hard-working. He had always been popular with female cultivators. There were also many noble ladies around him and female cultivators of equal social status. Su Zhenmo had never seen anyone praise someone like Xue Chengxian. This person wanted to poach him. Absolutely. Su Zhenmo felt uncomfortable and turned to look at the other two. Qin Xiuma and Chu Tianfeng stood not far away with cold expressions. However, for some reason, no matter how angry their faces were, they did not step forward to stop Meng Qi and Xue Chengxian from talking. What's wrong with these two? Su Zhenmo did not understand. He had seen Qin Xiuma shamelessly following Meng Qi along the way. Chu Tianfeng was the same. He had thought that they both liked Meng Qi. Now that things were like this, wouldn't they be jealous, crazy, and stop them? Speaking of the silk twine fruit, Xue Chengxian had already changed the topic. Silk twine fruits under 100 years old are more common. After 100 years, the silk twine vines parasitized on the fruit will change. The medicinal properties will interact, and the medicinal effects will increase by more than 3 times. Meng Qi's eyes widened. This was something that she had never seen written about in books. Xue Chengxian touched his storage bag and took out a small wooden box. He opened the wooden box, and there happened to be a silk twine fruit that was more than 100 years old inside. The silk twine vines grew green leaves again, and blue rice-like flowers bloomed on them. The whole fruit looked very cute. As soon as the box was opened, a strange fragrance assailed their nostrils. Everyone on the ship could not help but take a deep breath. They only felt relaxed and happy. Morong Fei. One he. The Wind Alliance has 100 herb gardens. Xue Chengshuan's voice was gentle and pleasant. They specialize in cultivating these strange flowers and herbs. Some of them even have a lifespan of 1,000 years. Even in the outland, they may be difficult to find. That's great. Meng Qi looked at the 100-year-old silk twine fruit, and her eyes lit up. Xue Chengxian smiled slightly. He slowly put away the silk twine fruit and continued. The Wind Alliance's library should be the largest library among the medical cultivation sects in the Trichiliocosm. Before I went out to train for the first time, I stayed there for 9 months, forgetting to eat and sleep to read the bamboo slips. Unfortunately, Bidich. He shook his head and sighed. I didn't even finish reading the first floor of the library. Meng Qi. She wanted to go. She really wanted to go. Xue Chengxian continued. The Mahayana illusionary formula and Mahayana illusionary powder that I just mentioned can be found in the library. He was taller than Meng Qi, so Meng Qi could only look up to see him. She looked up at him like this, her eyes sparkling with yearning and longing. Xue Chengxian had seen the admiring gazes of female cultivators, but the longing gaze of this little foundation establishment cultivator in front of him was not directed at him. He shook his head in amusement and sighed softly. Unfortunately, the sect rules are strict, and only disciples of the sect can enter the library. As Xue Chengxian spoke, he turned to look out of the ship's railing. The blue sky was very close, and the white clouds brushed past them. The wind blew his robe, but with the protective array of the ship, it did not make people feel uncomfortable. According to the rules, in this medical cultivation conference, the major medical cultivation sects in the 4 realms will select some talented cultivators from the competition and accept them into their sections. Xue Qingxian turned to look at Meng Qi and asked softly, "Fellow Taoist Meng, will your sect also come?" Meng Qi shook her head. "I don't have a sect." She was not the kind of person who would look back. Since she had made up her mind to leave Cool Breeze Valley, she had nothing to do with it. Xue Qingxuan's eyes lit up. In fact, from the moment Meng Qi did not know the rules of the medical cultivation conference, he suspected that she did not come from a large sect. He did not expect that she did not even have a sect. Then fellow Taoist Meng's master. "I also don't have a master." Meng Qi shook her head again. She had not found a master yet, and the other party had not agreed to accept her as a disciple. Meng Qi could not be thick-skinned and claim to be the other party's disciple. Cough cough. Xue Qingxian wanted to praise the Wind Alliance again, so that Meng Qi could take the initiative to ask to join the Wind Alliance. He swallowed his words before he could say them. This girl was open-minded, and the way she looked at problems was different from ordinary people. He did not want to overreach himself. "Fellow Taoist Meng." Xue Qingxian cupped his hands. "As the eldest son of the Wind Alliance's Xue family, I invite you to participate in the Medical Cultivation Conference. Would you be willing to join?" "Sure." Meng Qi nodded. "I'll try, Brother Xue." Morong Fei finally could not help but say, "But she has just built her foundation. The registration requirement for the Medical Cultivation Conference is to at least complete the foundation, right?" "It's okay." Xue Qingxian took out a jade pendant from his storage bag. "The Xue family has an extra quota every year. Bring this jade pendant to sign up. No one will make things difficult for you." "Okay." Meng Qi took the jade pendant. The small jade pendant was exquisitely carved and felt warm to the touch. It was obviously not an ordinary item. "Thank you." Meng Qi bowed to Xue Qingxian. "I will definitely sign up when I reach Descending Star City." "Okay." Xue Qingxian smiled and nodded. "I will wait for Taoist Meng's good news." The boat was extremely fast, much faster than the small paper crane that she used to fly. Meng Qi and Xue Qingxian chatted, and felt that time flew by quickly. In less than half a day, the boat landed and stopped outside the city gates of Huajiang Prefecture. "We're here." The group disembarked and Xue Qingxian kept the boat. Meng Qi looked up at the wide and tall city gates of Huajiang Prefecture. This place was much bigger than Qingfeng Town. Although it was not as big as Burnt City, it was still a big city. In addition, it was located at the border between the east and the west, so there were many cultivators coming and going. Meng Qi had been here several times in her previous life. In her memory, Huajiang Prefecture was always very prosperous. However, it looked especially bleak today. When they arrived, it was already dusk. The sunset glow burned brightly on the horizon, making the empty city gates of Huajiang Prefecture look even more desolate. The sunset glow covered the streets that were paved with large bluestones. The shops on both sides were closed. Meng Qi and the others walked along the main road in the city for a long time, but they did not meet anyone. They also did not see a single shop that was open. Chu Tianfeng was in Burnt City, so he came to Huajiang Prefecture more often than Meng Qi. He looked around and said, "I came here 3 months ago. At that time, it was very lively. Don't they care about the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa?" The Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa he mentioned was beside Huajiang Prefecture. The 3,000 worlds tacitly agreed that the sects beside the cities would also protect the safety of the cities. The Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa's sect master and elders were all injured last month. They are all in seclusion to heal their injuries and have not come out yet. Their disciples are killing the demon cultivators who invaded with the divine devouring vines. But the demon cultivators appear and disappear unpredictably. The Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa's ordinary disciples really can't do anything to them. They have already sent out a request for help. Soon, the nearby sects will come to help, when he explained. Chu Tianfeng nodded. When something happened in the West world, They usually would not ask the sects in the East world for help. Therefore, the Burning Sky Palace did not receive the request for help from the mystic Cloud Mountain Villa. Otherwise, he would have known what happened here long ago. Where are the injured people? Mengqi asked. Follow me. Xue Chengxian took the lead and led everyone to the center of the city. The mystic Cloud Mountain Villa's courtyard was there. The cultivators who were injured by the divine devouring vines were temporarily settled there. Mengqi and the others walked to the entrance of the mystic Cloud Mountain Villa's courtyard. When the mystic Cloud Mountain Villa disciples guarding outside saw Xue Chengxian, they hurriedly greeted him. You are finally back. The two disciples bowed to him. When they raised their heads, they could not hide the excitement on their faces. Eldest senior brother also said that if you did not come back tonight, he would send people to Burnt City to look for you. Did something happen? Xue Chengxian made an inviting gesture to Mengqi. He asked the two disciples as he walked into the courtyard. This morning, two cultivators passed by Huajiang Manor. After seeing the injured people, she said that she could treat them. Moreover, she could indeed recognize that the ones who injured them were divine devouring vines. She also described the symptoms of the injuries correctly. However, she is only at the foundation establishment stage. Eldest senior brother did not dare to believe her so easily. Therefore, he wanted to ask you to come back as soon as possible. Xue Chengxian was stunned. He turned to look at Mengqi, another foundation establishment cultivator, who could treat the injuries of the divine devouring vines. Qin Xiaoma and Chu Tianfeng also looked at each other, and saw the familiar confusion in each other's eyes. Is the person who said that she could treat them a young female cultivator? Qin Xiaoma suddenly asked lazily. Yes. The mystic Cloud Mountain Villa disciple turned around in surprise. He looked at the unfamiliar man in black that none of them knew. The other party was very handsome, but he looked a little fierce. That disciple hesitated for a while and nodded. She is a very young female cultivator, about 20 years old. She is very beautiful. Qin Xiaoma sneered and raised his chin at Mengqi. Your senior sister seems to be here to steal your business again. Chapter 47. Mengqi glanced at Qin Xiaoma. Xue Chengxian was a little surprised, but he didn't say anything. He just smiled and said, The last time I came to the East Border was 3 years ago with my father. It seems that the medical skills in the East Border have progressed very quickly in the past few years. I'll go in and take a look first. He nodded politely at Mengqi, then turned to the two disciples of Xianyun Villa and said, Please take me there. Yes. One of them hurriedly led Xue Chengxian to the door. The other disciple recognized Morong Fei, and when he brought them to the main hall of the Bee Garden. You've come a long way. Please rest here for a while. I'll have someone bring you tea and snacks. He turned and left in a hurry. Mengqi casually found a chair and sat down. Chu Tianfeng took a step forward and sat next to her. Qin Xiaoma didn't sit and stood next to Mengqi. Hey. Chu Tianfeng looked up at him. You just said that someone is trying to steal business. Is it Lu Qingran? What else could it be? Qin Xiaoma raised the corners of his lips and smiled sarcastically. She wouldn't go that far, right? Chu Tianfeng didn't believe it. The disciples of Cool Breeze Valley were so miserable before. Would she dare to do it again? She wouldn't dare to do it again. But she dares to do it again. That's true. Chu Tianfeng nodded. Mengqi looked at the two of them in surprise. Qin Xiaoma and Chu Tianfeng's hostility towards Lu Qingran was too obvious. It didn't seem like the kind of hostility that was born out of love. Instead, it seemed like there was some kind of deep hatred. This shouldn't be. Mengqi. Chu Tianfeng turned to look at Mengqi. Mengqi. Why did everyone start calling her Mengqi? Let's go and expose Lu Qingran. Chu Tianfeng said. You were the one who came up with this idea, so we can't let her get away with it. You should be the one earning the spirit stones. As he spoke, he stood up eagerly. Let's go compete with her and snatch the business. Mengqi wanted to roll his eyes at him. Since when could treating illnesses be equated with business? Moreover, if he relied on this method to earn spirit stones, he wouldn't even be able to raise little Qi. he would have to rely on something else. However, she still intended to take a look. I'll go take a look. She stood up as well. The cultivators injured by the divine devouring vines were innocent. If it was really Lu Qingran, she would not be at ease. Okay. Chu Tianfeng quickly followed. Qin Xiuma also followed. Su Junmo listened to the three of them mumbling for a while, but he still didn't understand what was going on. Seeing this, he also followed them. Only Morong Fei, and when he were left in the main hall, the two of them looked at each other, feeling somewhat baffled. Mengqi. Seeing that only the four of them were left in the main hall, Su Junmo heaved a sigh of relief. He hurriedly moved to Mengqi's side. Your senior marshal sister is also here? What do you mean by snatching the business you were talking about? I noticed earlier that your relationship with your senior marshal sister isn't very good. Could it be that there's something else going on? I think your senior marshal sister is not bad. She's pretty filial and kind. In order to protect her master, she bravely stood up for her. Of course, it's wrong for her to suspect you, Mengqi, but this is also human nature. If it were my elders who were being reprimanded, I wouldn't be able to help but speak up for them too. Yes, she's very pretty, very kind, and very nice. Qin Xiuma casually added. If you like her, then go chase after her. Yes, yes. Chu Tianfeng also said. If you miss out on such a good girl, it might be very difficult for you to meet someone like her in the future. Fellow Taoist Su, go chase after her. You can do it. I suspect that you're tricking me. Su Junmo snorted softly. Mengqi. Of course I'm on your side unconditionally, but I don't think there's anything wrong with your senior marshal sister. Is there some misunderstanding between the two of you? If there's any misunderstanding, it's fine. Just leave it to me. I'll help you clear up the misunderstanding. It's not easy for everyone to learn from the same master. It's fine as long as the misunderstanding is cleared up. What do you think? There's no misunderstanding, Mengqi said. Lu Qingran and I just don't get along. One was the Heavenly Tao's favorite, and the other was an unlucky scapegoat. They were born to be enemies. Speaking of hatred, she really didn't dislike Lu Qingran. Really? Su Junmo was stunned. We're not tricking you, Qin Xiuma said. Children who like to cry and throw tantrums are always more favored. There's nothing else. You don't have to worry about us. Su Junmo looked at the two of them suspiciously. She still felt that the two of them were up to no good. Even Mengqi looked at the two of them in surprise. She had already felt that Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma's attitude towards her after her rebirth was very different from her previous life, probably because there were no misunderstandings in this life. Mengqi wasn't surprised that their attitude towards her had changed. Mengqi's medical skills had already broken through to the 5th grade before she died in her previous life. There weren't any shortcuts in her medical skills. She took it one step at a time. She was truly a 5th grade medical practitioner who had saved countless lives. The people she cured, as long as they had nothing to do with Lu Qingran, were also very grateful to her. For example, the ordinary residents of Qingfeng town. When Mengqi thought of these people, her heart became warm, and her gaze gradually became gentle. So, did she make the right choice in this life? Although she still saved these male cultivators who were entangled with Lu Qingran, because she received money and cut off karma, she didn't snatch the luck of her senior sister, the darling of the heavenly Tao. Bikuch. Name everything became better. As for why Qin Xiuma and Chu Tianfeng were dissatisfied with Lu Qingran, Mengqi only thought about it for a moment before throwing it to the back of her mind. This had nothing to do with her. It didn't matter if they liked it, hated it because of love, or were depressed and perverted because they couldn't get what they wanted. It had nothing to do with her. What she wanted to know more now was about the Medical Cultivation Dharma Assembly. Thinking of the Wind Alliance's library that Xue Chengxian mentioned, Mengqi's heart itched. She wanted to go. So she had to work hard. She completely blocked out the argument of Chu Tianfeng and the other two. Mengqi didn't hear what they said later at all. She walked very quickly. The mystic Cloud Mountain Villa's courtyard in Huajiang Mansion was quite big and occupied the best street in Huajiang Mansion. Mengqi walked from the main hall to the room where the injured cultivators were placed. It was enough time for Su Junmo and Chu Tianfeng to repeatedly discuss whether Lu Qingran was worth pursuing or not. She turned a deaf ear to them and went forward to knock on the door. The door quickly opened with a creak, and a man in his 30s who was also wearing the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa's disciple uniform walked out. "May I ask who you are?" The man sized up Meng Qi and was a little surprised by the unfamiliar girl who suddenly appeared in the courtyard. However, he soon saw Su Junmo. "Fellow Taoist Su." The man took 2 steps forward and bowed to Su Junmo, who had already quieted down. "Fellow Taoist, Lianha of the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa is very grateful for your presence." Su Junmo nodded at him. "Fellow Taoist Li, you're too polite." He paused and said, "I came with Brother Shui. After all, the divine devouring vine is from the demon realm." "Yes." Lianha nodded. "This fellow Taoist wants to see the injured cultivators." Su Junmo pointed at Meng Qi. "Is it convenient?" "Of course." Lianha hurriedly stepped aside. His attitude toward Meng Qi was completely different from before. "Fellow Taoist, please." Meng Qi nodded at him and quickly walked into the room. She couldn't help but frown as soon as she stepped into the room. The strong sweet fragrance of white peaches instantly surrounded her. It was so intoxicating that it made it difficult for her to breathe. The Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa definitely had a Dharma treasure that could seal one's aura. Otherwise, it was impossible that she couldn't smell a trace of aura outside the door. "How many people are injured?" Meng Qi asked. "There are a total of 67 people. 4 of them are placed here, and there are a few more in the room. The rest are sent to the middle of the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa. There is a cave that completely isolates the spirit qi. Before fellow Taoist Shui went to Burnt City, he instructed us to place the lightly injured cultivators there. The condition of the people there is better than the people in the villa." Lianha didn't hide Meng Qi's problem for Su Junmo's sake. He frowned. "I went back to visit them last night. They also," he shook his head lightly and sighed. "These injured people were not disciples of the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa. Huajiang Manor was at the foot of the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa. According to the rules of the Trichiliacosm, the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa should be responsible for the safety of this place. The injured cultivators were also their responsibility." "Yes." Meng Qi nodded. The fragrance of 3 cultivators was so strong. It was far stronger than the smell around Lan Zhuxian and the others when they were injured. She frowned and quickly walked forward. There were 2 rooms. The deeper Meng Qi walked, the stronger the smell. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xioma, who followed her in, also frowned. Just the smell alone was enough to make people feel extremely uncomfortable. Lianha also frowned and said, "Ever since they moved in, the fragrance here has become stronger." He shook his head and said, 2 fellow Taoists passed by Huajiang Manor this morning. They said they smelled the scent of the injured divine devouring vines, so they came to help us treat them." Meng Qi nodded. She quickly passed through the room and entered the bedroom. Shui Qingxian heard the sound and turned to look at her. Seeing Meng Qi, he smiled at her and gestured for her to keep quiet. In the room, 3 bamboo beds were arranged in a triangle. On the ground in the middle of the 3 beds, there was a small bronze cauldron. Light pink smoke rose from the small cauldron. The fragrance in the bedroom should be stronger, but the sweet fragrance of white peaches was dispelled by the light and slightly bitter medicinal fragrance. It was not as good as outside. Meng Qi stared at the small cauldron for a while. She felt that it was somewhat familiar, but she could not remember where she had seen it before. She turned to look at the corner of the room. There were 2 chairs there, and a man and a woman were sitting side by side. The female cultivator on the left was about 20 years old. Her green hair was like a waterfall, and it was held up by a small pearl hairpin. She was wearing a light yellow dress that accentuated her slender waist. Even though she was sitting down, she still looked slender and graceful. Moreover, she had a very beautiful face. When the female cultivator met Meng Qi's gaze, her palm-sized face instantly paled. Her long and thick eyelashes trembled a few times. She seemed to be trying her best to squeeze out a smile. Junior sister Meng Qi. This person was Lu Qingran. Sitting next to Lu Qingran was a man in a black robe. He was wearing a bamboo hat on his head. A black veil hung down from both sides of the bamboo hat, completely covering his face. His exposed hands were slender, but they were abnormally pale. The male cultivator also turned his head to Meng-Chi. She could not see his expression and gazed through the veil. She could only see that the male cultivator's fingers, which were originally lazily placed on the armrest of the chair, suddenly bent slightly and tapped the armrest somewhat casually. Qin Xiaoma had already stood next to Meng-Chi in an instant. His fingers hanging by his side were forming a seal. His life-bound longsword would break through the air and attack the other party at any time. Qin Xiaoma did not know this person, but he instinctively felt that the black-clothed man next to Lu Qingran was very dangerous. A chuckle escaped from behind the black veil. It was the man who was laughing. When Xue Qingxian heard Lu Qingran call Meng-Chi that way, he looked at the two in surprise. You, he silently mouthed to Meng-Chi. Are you from the same sect? We used to be, Meng-Chi said lightly in a low voice. She was still looking at the small cauldron that was emitting light pink smoke. What was this? She took a breath. The slightly bitter and astringent medicinal smell, mixed with a little bit of the sweet fragrance of white peaches, gave her an indescribably strange feeling. What exactly was it? Meng-Chi turned to look at Xue Qingxian. Since this knowledgeable medical cultivator of the Wind Alliance did not react, he should be harmless. But she felt a little strange, as if she had seen this thing somewhere before, but she could not remember now. This is the powder on the wings of the Kanglan purple butterfly, mixed with the 300-year-old silk twining fruit, Tianluo crystal, and the man in the bamboo hat suddenly spoke. The powder refined from the ascetic bamboo. His voice was very pleasant, but also very cold, like a cold jade striking a stone. When it reached people's ears, they could feel a trace of coldness rising from the wound on their back. He seemed to be looking at Meng-Chi. Is my method effective? Without waiting for Meng-Chi to answer, Xue Qingxian had already spoken. Just the powder refined from the first 3 herbs can be burned to drive away most of the exotic birds. With the addition of the ascetic bamboo, the effect will double. It's just that no one has ever tested whether this thing is effective on the divine devouring vine. That male cultivator sneered. You'll know once you try. He knocked on the armrest again and said casually, otherwise, when you hunt the 5-element green crane, these cultivators can wait, but the divine devouring vine can't. It's just a pile of fertilizer. It doesn't matter if you save it or not. Meng-Chi. Not only this small cauldron, even the tone of the man's voice was somewhat familiar. Did she meet him in her previous life? Why did she not remember at all? There were many men walking around Lu Qingran, and Meng-Chi actually did not know all of them. However, with such a pleasant voice and such a cold and harsh tone, she would definitely remember them if she met them. So, the male cultivator stood up as he spoke. He was very tall. Xue Qingxian was already quite tall. However, even without the bamboo hat, this person was still slightly taller than Xue Qingxian. We don't need you here anymore. As he spoke, he turned his head and extended a hand to Lu Qingran. Let's go. Xue Qingxuan's expression changed slightly, but he did not say anything. In the end, the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa had nothing to do with the Wind Alliance. It was just that they were both in the West World. The other party had asked for help, and they were injured by the divine devouring vine, which they had never seen before. The Wind Alliance would naturally lend a helping hand. He stared at the male cultivator who refused to show his true face, and then looked at Lu Qingran. He had just heard her call Meng-Chi junior sister. Regardless of whether or not they had been apprentice sisters in the past, the two definitely came from the same sect. In other words, they both came from the Eastern Jia. Of the 3,000 worlds and 4 Jia, it had never been said which Jia was strong enough to crush the other 3. However, for thousands of years, medical cultivators were recognized as the strongest in the Western Jia. The Wind Alliance was even more outstanding. He had not gone to the Eastern Jia for many years. This Eastern Jia that bordered both the Yao and Mo Jia had been suppressed and developed the slowest because of this, had produced such young and powerful Xiuzha. Xue Qingxian turned to look at Meng-Chi. Meng-Chi was looking at Lu Qingran. Lu Qingran hesitated, and then slowly raised her hand and gently placed it on the man's pale palm. She lowered her head and slowly stood up, not willing to look at Meng Qi again. She followed behind the man and slowly walked out the door. When the two passed by Meng Qi, Qin Xiaoma lightly snorted and stepped forward to protect Meng Qi. He looked warily at the black-robed man. That feeling of danger became more and more obvious as the other came closer. As if feeling his master's nervousness, Qin Xiaoma's life-bond longsword suddenly hummed and appeared at his side. The longsword floated, the tip flashing with cold light. The man also turned his head in Qin Xiaoma's direction. Huh? He snorted again. A bit interesting. The man suddenly raised his hand and flicked his finger. He did not move quickly. While Qin Xiaoma had not recovered, he still had the strength of a Jindan Xiuzha. Even more, he had started to forge his life-bond longsword when he entered Juji. In these years, it had never left him for even a moment. The man and the sword were mentally connected. Even when he had not recovered, the sect leader of Cool Breeze Valley, whose cultivation was higher than his, could only stop him once with a talisman. But in front of the black-robed man, Qin Xiaoma was like a child playing house with a wooden sword. Just like that, the man slowly raised his hand, slowly flicked his fingers and tapped lightly. His pale and slender fingers looked a bit sickly, and even a bit weak, but they steadily and accurately bounced off the tip of the sword. Qin Xiaoma could not avoid it at all. Ugh! Qin Xiaoma suddenly gave a muffled grunt, a thread of blood slipping down the corner of his mouth. Meng Qi stilled. Ha. The black-robed man was already laughing and shaking his head. You are still far from it. For the sake of your grandmaster, I will spare your life and your life-bond longsword today. Next time you dare to be so rude, don't blame this seat for being merciless. When the black-robed man did this, he was still holding Lu Qingran's hand. She didn't dare to move at all. She quickly raised her eyes and glanced at Qin Xiaoma. Let's go. The black-robed man gripped her hand even tighter and led her out of the room. The room was still quiet even after the two of them disappeared out the door. Lianhe didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Profound Cloud Mountain Villa was a sword cultivation sect. All sword cultivators would refine their life-bond longswords. He was a discerning person. If Qin Xiaoma's life-bond longsword was placed in Profound Cloud Mountain Villa, he would definitely be invincible among his peers. When the black-robed man and Lu Qingran said they could save people, he didn't pay much attention to the other. He didn't expect him to be so powerful. Xue Chengxian slowly exhaled. Su Junmo's expression was solemn. This person, he shook his head. Judging from his voice, he shouldn't be very old. To have such cultivation at such an age, so powerful. From birth, the heavenly Yao could use the shadow of stars on their bodies to continuously absorb the spirit energy around them and cultivate without stopping. Su Junmo could reach Yuanying at such an age. Among the 3,000 worlds, he was already an outstanding genius. Even so, he couldn't sense the cultivation of this mysterious man whose voice didn't sound much older than his own. So powerful. This was already Su Junmo's extremely high evaluation. Su Junmo turned to look at Qin Xiaoma and looked sympathetically at the blood flowing from the corner of his lips. But didn't he just say it was for the sake of your grandmaster? Just like that, he actually damaged your life-bond longsword. In his shock, he almost forgot to maintain his image as a noble young master. He murmured. He didn't use any spells. Yu Mingqi Chu Tianfeng, brother Xue. Did you see him make a spell? I saw that he just raised his hand and flicked it. His strength could easily crush a Jindan Xiuzha. This is a split spirit. No. Maybe it's an even more powerful one. Right. Su Junmo didn't stop nagging. Qin Xiaoma, he just said your grandmaster. Who is your grandmaster? Why didn't he kill you for the sake of your grandmaster? Can you feel it? Did he say it on purpose to scare you? Or did he really show mercy? Were you on guard just now? Did you resist? Or is it because your internal injuries haven't healed yet? Qin Xiaoma. F*** King Chatterbox. Meng Qi had already taken out a small porcelain bottle from his storage bag and handed it to him. Take this first. Okay. Qin Xiaoma stuffed the medicine in the porcelain bottle into his mouth without hesitation. Although he was injured, there was a bit of joy on his face. You gave me medicine again. He swallowed the medicine in his mouth and then said, I still don't have money. I owe you. Meng Qi. That person is really powerful, Meng Qi said and looked up at Qin Xiuma's natal sword. The sword was still floating in the air, but it looked a bit dim. He was merciful. Qin Xiuma said. He stopped in the end. Otherwise, my natal sword would have been hit back into my body by him. In that case, your cultivation level would directly fall back to the foundation establishment stage. He narrowed his eyes and said slowly. Meng Qi didn't say anything. She quickly searched through her memories but still couldn't remember. She shouldn't have no impression of such a powerful person by Lu Qingran's side. At this time, the three injured Xiuzha in the room suddenly groaned. They had been injured for a long time, and the divine devouring vines in their bodies had absorbed all their spirit energy and started to take over their consciousness. The man's words were a bit harsh, but if these people continued to develop, they would really be no different from flower pots. Lianhe was overjoyed and rushed forward. The three Xiuzha all slowly opened their eyes. Although they still looked a bit dazed, their eyes slowly regained their spirit. They were no longer blank and numb like before, as if they were walking corpses. How do you feel, fellow Taoists? Lianhe asked. A male Xiuzha in his 40s slowly exhaled. Where am I? He suddenly shouted in horror. I remember now. He was extremely shocked and was about to jump up from the bamboo bed. Just as he lifted his body, he fell back down again. Why do I have no strength at all? Where's my spirit energy? Why is my spirit energy gone? When he shouted like this, the other two also panicked and checked the condition of their bodies. My spirit energy is gone too. My spiritual ocean is empty. I've never experienced such a situation since I started cultivating qi. What exactly happened? Where's my spirit energy? The room instantly became noisy. The three injured Xiuzha's voice was hoarse, but in their anxiety, they did not care about the condition of their bodies. They struggled to get up from the bed. Lianhe could not persuade them, so he could only turn to Xue Qingxian for help. Don't panic. Xue Qingxian stepped forward and comforted them. I'm Xue Qingxian from the Wind Alliance. You were injured by the divine devouring vine earlier, so now you should… Xue Qingxian suddenly turned and called Meng Qi. Fellow Taoist Meng, come and take a look. Was it the same for the people you cured earlier? Chapter 48. As Xue Qingxian spoke, he raised his hand, and a clear light enveloped the injured person closest to him. He raised his hand, and a silver light appeared beside him. As Meng Qi walked toward him, she stared at the silver light carefully. It turned out to be a thin silver needle. Xue Qingxian flicked his finger, and the silver light quickly entered the wrist of the man in front of him. A green jade slip flew out of his storage bag and floated in front of the man's forehead. Meng Qi stood beside him. She watched without blinking as Xue Qingxian did everything in an orderly manner. This was probably how medical cultivators looked like when they made a move, calm, composed, and pleasing to the eye. Xue Qingxian frowned. The silver light came out of the injured man's other wrist and disappeared. Meng Qi knew that he had taken it back. Many medical cultivators would choose silver needles and cauldrons when refining their natal dharma treasures. Xue Qingxian came from a large medical cultivation sect, so it was normal for him to use silver needles as his dharma treasures. Meng Qi had just reached the Foundation Establishment Realm. When she reached the Foundation Establishment Realm 5, she would also start refining her natal dharma treasure. In her previous life, she had chosen cauldrons. In this life, Xue Qingxuan's silver needles looked pretty good. Fellow Taoist Meng. Xue Qingxuan's expression was serious. He handed the green jade slip to her, and Meng Qi held it in her hand. The jade slip emitted a clear light, and the man's condition was instantly imprinted in her mind. The spirit qi in his body had completely dried up, and his spirit sea was like a barren and cracked land. After being corroded by the divine devouring vines for many days, even his blood essence was being consumed. The originally tall and strong cultivator's body was almost hollowed out and extremely weak. Also, Meng Qi's eyes widened. Demonic qi. Xue Qingxian turned and quickly said to Lianhe, the eldest senior brother of the Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa. Quick! Send someone to stop those two people. Okay. The two words devil chi caused Li Anha's expression to suddenly change. Oh no. He suddenly raised his voice. The Xiuzhe recovering in the snow cave at the middle of the mountain are also. Li Anhe's face was pale as he turned around and strode out of the door. The blood at the corner of Qin Xiuma's lips had turned dark brown, which made his face even paler. I'm afraid I can't stop him if I'm below the spirit severing stage. Spirit severing? Li Anhe was shocked. Master and Elder have other matters to attend to in the sect. I'm afraid. There were only 2 cultivators who had just stepped into the spirit-severing realm in the Mystic Cloud Villa. However, they had more important matters to attend to. Then don't go to your death, Qin Xiuma said in a hoarse voice as he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. But Li Anhe still wanted to say something. Xue Chengxian shook his head and said, "It's my fault. The devil chi is very faint. If you don't examine it carefully, you won't be able to detect it. That black-clothed Xiuzhe seems to be injured. Maybe he was injured by a Mo Xiu, and there is still Mo energy in his body." He had just checked, and the devil chi seemed to be completely harmless. Furthermore, there was only one wisp, and it was very faint and weak. There was no need to expel it, as it would dissipate after 1 or 2 days. Taoist Mengqi. Xue Chengxian turned to look at Mengqi, who was deep in thought. What do you think? Mengqi shook his head. It's harmless for now. She was thinking about another matter. Back then, she had also discovered devil chi in the bodies of Lan Zhuxian and the other Cool Breeze Valley disciples. It was also very faint and weak, and it did not cause any harm to the cultivators themselves. So that black-clothed man was already beside Lu Qingran back then? Back then, those Cool Breeze Valley disciples who were injured by the divine devouring vines did not receive proper treatment. It was only because someone forcefully suppressed the divine devouring vines that Lan Zhuxian and the others suffered an even more serious backlash. The divine devouring vines that injured people in Huajiang Manor this time were similar to the ones that injured Lan Zhuxian and the others previously. This black-clothed man had really healed those people. The method he used was even more tyrannical than Meng Qi's. He directly killed the divine devouring vines in those people's bodies. So that wisp of devil chi should have been left in those cultivators' bodies when he killed the divine devouring vines. In that case, who exactly was he? Qin Xiuma also walked over and asked Meng Qi in a low voice, "You think there's a problem?" Meng Qi thought for a moment. "I'm guessing that he pulled out the divine devouring vines that were hibernating in those people's bodies from their blood, and directly killed them in their bodies. The devil chi should have been left behind at that time. He's very powerful." Yeah. Xue Chengxian also nodded. He can precisely control the Dharma art and kill the divine devouring vines without harming those cultivators' essences. He's very powerful. No wonder Qin Xiuma was injured when he only used 2 fingers just now. He's indeed very powerful. Su Junmo also came over. "Meng Qi, your senior sister is with him. Will she?" He frowned a little worriedly. "Was she coerced?" Qin Xiuma glanced at Su Junmo in annoyance. Was it fun to repeatedly mention that he was defeated by the other party in front of Meng Qi? "Should we go and save your senior sister?" Su Junmo asked again. The worry in his tone was real. When Lu Qingran left, she turned back to look at us. Was she asking for help? Fellow Taoist Meng, Xue Chengxian also asked, "If you want to save your senior sister, I can also go with you." "No." Meng Qi shook his head. Lu Qingran would never need her to worry. No matter how powerful a man was, he would quickly become soft in front of her. She had seen even more powerful, bloodthirsty, cold-blooded, and cruel demonic cultivators than this black-clothed man. In the end, they quickly fell under Lu Qingran's skirt and obeyed her every word. Their love for her was unforgettable. But Meng Qi. Su Junmo still wanted to say something. Meng Qi glanced at him. "If you want to go, you can go by yourself." Su Junmo. "That's right. You can go by yourself," Chu Tianfeng also said. Su Junmo. He was speechless. Qin Xiuma snorted coldly and said indifferently, If a hero saves a damsel in distress, the effect will be greatly reduced if he brings too many people to help. Su Junmo. Xue Qingxian saw that the atmosphere was a little awkward, so he quickly said, except for the trace of demonic qi, these people have no other problems. Fellow Taoist Meng, I'm going to the snow cave halfway up Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa to check on other injured cultivators. 1200 KSW. Net, I won't go. Meng Qi said. I have something to do and want to stay in the city. Okay. Xue Qingxian did not force him. Then let's meet here tomorrow morning and return to Burnt City together. He cupped his hands toward Meng Qi and the others, comforted the 3 injured cultivators with a few words, and walked out of the door with Lianhe. Meng Qi was preparing to go to the Sky Beyond Sky relay station. Just now, the jade slip reminded her that her things had arrived. It should be the cold jade box that was prepared to store the jade cicada vine, and some slips that recorded the medical cultivation conference. She turned and walked out of the courtyard. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xioma naturally followed. Su Junmo was stunned for a moment. He stomped his feet and still followed Meng Qi. He was a little worried about Lu Qingran, but he still dared not leave Meng Qi for too long when he thought of the Lord's orders. You're not going to save her? Chu Tianfeng saw Su Junmo following and asked coldly. Su Junmo did not say anything. Meng Qi. Chu Tianfeng moved closer to Meng Qi. Did you notice? After you said that you're not going to save Lu Qingran, that Xue Qingxian suddenly became cold. Oh. Meng Qi thought for a while. It seemed to be true. These 2 days, he was used to calling him no matter what he did. However, when he said that he was going to the snow cave, Xue Qingxian only asked him out of politeness. Chu Tianfeng snorted coldly. Meng Qi, don't worry. If he comes to ask you for the jade pendant, it's the jade pendant that can recommend you to participate in the medical cultivation conference. I'll find a way to get one for you. Our Burning Sky Palace is not a medical cultivation sect. The elders in the sect have medical skills and high cultivation. They have a wide circle of friends. There must be a way. Meng Qi had not thought of this. Su Junmo did not know whether to laugh or cry. Xue Qingxian won't. He's the eldest son of this generation of the Xue family. How could he come to ask for something that was given away? However, Meng Qi, are you really not worried about your senior sister? Although she was a little rude to you before, she was also protecting her master. It's not. Shut up. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xioma turned around and shouted at Su Junmo. After they finished shouting, they looked at Meng Qi worriedly. Meng Qi's expression was still indifferent. I'm not going. She thought for a while and added, she'll be fine. While talking, they had already walked to the outside of the Sky Beyond station. Su Junmo was used to being told to shut up by them, so he did not take it seriously. He looked up at the words Sky Beyond Station, and was a little surprised. Meng Qi, you're here? Meng Qi had already walked in. The manager of the Sky Beyond Station recognized her divine sense mark, and handed her 2 brocade pouches. Thank you. Meng Qi was a little surprised, but she still took them all. She opened the first small brocade pouch, and used her divine sense to explore it. There were indeed 2 cold jade boxes and some bamboo slips inside. She put these things into the storage bag and looked at the other brocade pouch. What was this? Meng Qi was puzzled. She had not ordered anything in Sky Beyond Station during this period. She opened the brocade pouch while thinking. She used her divine sense to explore it again. The spiritual energy contained in a 9th grade spirit stone was equivalent to the spiritual energy of a cultivator who had just entered the Mahayana stage. So much spiritual energy was all condensed in a small spirit stone. It was so dense that it was almost solid. Even if it was in the brocade pouch, the moment Meng Qi's divine sense probed it, she was almost blinded. Blind eyes. 9th grade spirit stones. So many. So blinding. This was her first reaction. Then Meng Qi was stunned. Where did so many 9th grade spirit stones come from? The largest amount of spirit stones she had earned so far was the more than 200 8th grade spirit stones she got from selling the North Deep pills. But there were at least 200 or 300 9th grade spirit stones in this brocade pouch. This was a huge amount that probably even the geniuses of large sects like Qin Xiaoma and Chu Tianfeng would be surprised. Hello. Meng Qi carried the brocade pouch and walked toward the manager of the Sky Beyond station. Excuse me, is this a mistake? She did not remember having so many spirit stones at all. There's no mistake. The manager took it and checked the divine sense mark on it. He said with certainty, the divine sense mark is exactly the same as fellow Taoists. There's no mistake. After he finished speaking, he returned the brocade pouch to Meng Qi and said with a smile, fellow Taoist, did you buy too many things and forget? Sometimes we encounter young female cultivators who buy too many things at once. When they get the brocade pouch, they are like fellow Taoist and don't remember when they bought it. Meng Qi. She frowned and recalled seriously, and a few broken images suddenly flashed through her mind. She was crying, and a white-robed man whose face could not be seen clearly was standing in front of her. The other party seemed to be talking to her, telling her to stop crying, and giving her something. It seemed to be the brocade pouch. Meng Qi looked down at the brocade pouch in her hand. Was that not her drunken dream? Was it real? It happened in the Sky Beyond station. Thank you. She thanked the person from the Sky Beyond station, threw the brocade pouch into her storage bag, and turned to run out of the door. What took you so long? Chu Tianfeng saw Meng Qi come out, and was about to say something. Meng Qi had already run forward quickly. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. There was also a rosy lane in the center of Huajiang Mansion. This inn was opened all over the 3,000 worlds, and it was said that the owner behind it was very powerful. Relatively speaking, it was considered a very safe place. Meng Qi urged the waiter to give her an independent small courtyard, then went into the room and closed the door. She remembered that she was drunk and dreamed of her master. If Meng Qi's hand that was holding the jade scroll in the Sky Beyond station trembled slightly. If it was not a dream but real, did it mean that she really saw her master in the Sky Beyond station? A white light flashed, and Meng Qi instantly appeared outside the Sky Beyond station. But where should she go to find him? She stood hesitantly at the city gate. At that time, she went to find Sister Shuijingwen. What happened next? Meng Qi could not remember at all. She only remembered that the sky was very close, and the white clouds were beside her. On the distant green mountains, there seemed to be clouds pouring down like a waterfall. Meng Qi's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly walked toward the staff of the Sky Beyond station at the city gate. Hello. She nodded to the person and asked, may I ask where I can see the cloud waterfall in the Sky Beyond station? Cloud waterfall? The person was stunned and looked at Meng Qi in surprise. If you're at the highest level of the Sky Beyond station, you can see the cloud waterfall when you're particularly lucky. But you can't see it every day, only when you're particularly lucky, because the cloud waterfall is there. Here. As he spoke, he raised his hand and pointed to the highest floating island floating in the corner of the Sky Beyond station. The cloud waterfall is up there. Chapter 49. Then how can I get there? Meng Qi asked again. Go there. The staff of Sky Beyond Heaven looked at Meng Qi with a strange expression. Without the permission of the owner of this place, no one can go up. Meng Qi did not say anything. She raised her head and looked at the floating island that was quietly floating in the air. She began to try her best to recall what happened after she was drunk. However, her head was really dizzy at that time, and she was completely stunned. All she could remember was that the white robe was soft and slightly cold, and the cloud waterfall was magnificent. Other than that, she reached out and knocked her head in frustration. Why did she drink at that time? She even drank an entire cup. Otherwise, she should have been able to see the white-robed man's appearance and remember what he said to her. Meng Qi thought for a moment and asked again. What about Sky Beyond Heaven Tower? Can I go up now? Yes, but if you want to go to the highest level, you need to make an appointment. The person sized up Meng Qi. He remembered her. She was someone that third Miss Shui valued, and he always spoke to her politely. Why don't you go and try now? Okay. Meng Qi nodded. Under the guidance of that person, she stepped into the teleportation formation. In the blink of an eye, Meng-Chi appeared outside Sky Beyond Heaven Tower. This was the first time Meng-Chi had come here. Sky Beyond Heaven Tower was different from the floating island of Xian. The entire floating island was like a large water village courtyard, and the scenery was extremely beautiful. In the distance there was a lotus pond, a small bridge and flowing water. The winding path led to a secluded place, and there were some houses of different styles. Other than that, in the center of the entire courtyard was a wooden building that seemed to tower into the clouds. Needless to say, Meng-Chi looked up and felt that she couldn't see the top of the building. What the person mentioned just now should be the top of the tall building. Meng-Chi turned around and looked to the other side. Sky Beyond Heaven Tower was on the second highest floating island. The highest island floated leisurely on the horizon. From here she still couldn't see anything. Meng-Chi took a deep breath and walked towards the main building of Sky Beyond Heaven Tower. The attendant at the door quickly greeted her warmly. "Do you have a reservation?" "No." Meng-Chi shook his head. "Fellow Taoist, are you alone?" "Yes." Meng-Chi nodded. "May I go to the top floor?" "My apologies, fellow Taoist." The waiter smiled warmly. "Today, the top 3 floors have been reserved. If you're not an invited guest, you can't go up." Meng-Chi nodded. She thought for a moment and decided to enter the Heavens Beyond restaurant under the guidance of the attendant. The inside of the building looked even more spacious than the outside. The decor was not luxurious, but it was simple and elegant. The waiter led her to the 4th floor. Meng-Chi sat alone at a square table by the window. Every table here was quite far from each other, so that the guests at each table would not disturb others. The waiter brought over the menu. Meng-Chi flipped through it and casually ordered a few side dishes. Not long after, the steaming hot dishes were delivered to them. "It smells so good." When cultivators were in the Sky Beyond Heaven, they felt no different from when they were in the 3,000 worlds. However, no matter how full they were here, they would still be hungry in the real world. Cultivators who could come to the Sky Beyond Heaven were at least golden core cultivators and above. They could fast and fast so they could only taste the food. In this way, the Heavens Beyond restaurant became the first choice for cultivators from the 3,000 worlds to gather. The dishes in front of Meng-Chi were really delicious. As soon as they were served, the aroma assailed her nose, making her feel comfortable. She had something on her mind, but she could not help but be attracted by the exquisite and delicious dishes. The attendant brought the last dish she ordered and placed a pot of tea on the table. "Fellow Taoist, please enjoy." "Excuse me, if I want to go to the top floor tomorrow, can I make a reservation now?" Meng-Chi stopped him. "I'm sorry, fellow Taoist. The top floor has been reserved from today until 3 months later. I'm afraid I can't let you go up in the near future." The attendant's smile did not fade. "Do you have any other instructions?" "Thank you." Meng-Chi was a little disappointed. In the middle of the Heavens Beyond restaurant, there was a patio that led from the bottom to the top floor. She turned her head and looked, but she could not see the top at all. This was normal. Back then in the Xian auction house, there was a world with every step. It was not the first time Meng-Chi had seen the power of the owner of this place. She retracted her gaze and was about to continue eating when suddenly, from another table of guests not far behind her, there was a sudden exclamation. "Jiu, are you sure?" Meng-Chi turned her head abruptly. The guest over there probably realized that he was reckless and hurriedly bowed to the people around him to apologize. When he spoke again, his voice was very low. Meng-Chi was quite a distance away from them, so she could not hear what they were saying at all. She waved her hand to call the attendant over and asked, "May I ask what the guest just said about Jiu?" "Oh." The attendant smiled and explained, "The Heavens Auction House will hold the last auction of the month in 2 days. Jiu is on the auction list now." "Bidich. Come, it's really Jiu?" Meng-Chi confirmed once again. "Yes." The attendant smiled slightly and said confidently and proudly, "This item is the feather of a heavenly demon phoenix. Although it is extremely rare, since the Heavens Auction House has listed it, it will definitely appear in the auction house." Meng-Chi nodded. "But to start the auction in 2 days. So urgent?" She quickly calculated the number of spirit stones she had now. For a Zhuji Xiuzha, She had earned quite a bit in this period of time. Adding on the 9th grade spirit stones she had obtained today, Meng Qi could definitely be considered a little rich woman among the Zhuji Xiuzha in the 3,000 worlds. It would not be hard to buy Jiyu based on its actual value. However, once this kind of rare and priceless treasure appeared in the auction house, it would not be sold based on its actual value. It was possible for it to be sold at a sky-high price. Meng Qi herself had sold a northern dark pellet at a high price. This Jiyu happened to be the most important and necessary ingredient to treat jackdaw grass, which was Little Qi's injury. Meng Qi suddenly stood up and stopped eating. The way to settle the bill at Heavens Beyond was very simple. After signing the bill here, one could go to any Heavens Beyond station in the 3,000 worlds and pay the staff there with the spirit stones. Meng Qi quickly signed the bill and quickly walked out of the building. She quickly left Heavens Beyond and returned to the room in Huajiang Mansion's Wishing Lane. She didn't know when Little Seven had come out of the beast house and was lazily lying on the bed beside her. Hearing Meng Qi's movements, he also turned his head and opened his eyes to look at her. Good boy. Meng Qi rubbed his head. There will be a Jiyu auction in Heavens Beyond in 2 days. I will definitely buy it. She took out the bag of 9th grade spirit stones from her storage bag. These spirit stones, Meng Qi gritted her teeth. If she missed the Jiyu this time, she did not know how long she would have to wait. She could only borrow this bag of spirit stones first. In the future, when she found out who gave it to her, she would earn enough spirit stones to return it to the other party. She used her divine sense to explore the bag. There were a total of 300 9th grade spirit stones in the bag. But was it enough? Meng Qi had never bought the Jiyu before, so she did not know how high the price would be. She thought for a moment and walked to the door. As soon as the door opened, Qin Xioma and the other 2 people each occupied a corner in the small independent courtyard. With Su Zhenmo around, it was rare for it to be quiet. Su Zhenmo. Meng Qi called him. I have something to ask you. What? Su Zhenmo's face was a little dark. It was rare that he only answered with 2 words. Jiyu. Meng Qi paused. If it was auctioned, how high do you think it would be? Jiyu? Su Zhenmo's eyes widened. Is it a real Jiyu? Is it the feather of our heavenly demon phoenix? Auctioned. Heavens, heavens, heavens. How many spirit stones can it be auctioned for? Meng Qi asked. That's the feather of a phoenix. Do you know that heavenly demon phoenixes are even rarer than white tigers in the demon realm? They can be reborn in flames and are basically immortal. They have no interest in reproducing. Of course, the great heavenly demons, also known as the heavenly demon royal family, have no interest in reproducing. That's why they are becoming rarer and rarer. Back then. How many spirit stones? Meng Qi was a little speechless. Let me finish. Where were we? Yes, heavenly demon phoenixes are also a branch of the heavenly demon royal family. Apart from the phoenix and white tiger, the royal family also has the azure dragon, the black tortoise, and the Qilin who made great contributions in the war 10,000 years ago. Spirit stones? Meng Qi interrupted Su Zhenmo again. There were only 2 days left. She had to think of a way to gather as many spirit stones as possible. She really did not have the patience to listen to Su Zhenmo talk about the great heavenly demon's reproductive difficulties. If you sell it, 1 Jiyu will cost about 100 9th grade spirit stones. But if you auction it, it's hard to buy something like this without at least 500 9th grade spirit stones. It's possible to double the price. 1 feather. This time even Chu Tianfeng exclaimed. No matter how rare a heavenly treasure is, isn't it too much for 1 feather to be auctioned at such a price? And it's only the feather of a phoenix, not the flesh of a phoenix or anything. It's just a feather. Meng Qi and Su Zhenmo looked at him in unison. What do you know? Su Zhenmo instantly forgot that he was angry with the 2 of them just now. Come. Let me talk to you. Your Burning Sky Palace is a sect that cultivates magic and mainly cultivates fire. Do you know what it means to your Burning Sky Palace if you can refine the Jiyu into your natal magic treasure? Meng Qi had already walked out of the courtyard. Su Zhenmo's voice was still babbling. She had already begun to think about where to get the money. Qin Xioma didn't participate in their discussion. As soon as Meng Qi moved, he immediately followed. How many more spirit stones do you need? He asked Meng Qi in a low voice. It's always good to have more. Meng Qi turned to look at him suspiciously. Do you want to pay back the money? Qin Xiaoma choked. He really didn't have any spirit stones, but he reminded Meng Qi. You still have an IOU in your hand. You can ask her to pay back the money. He paused, and a strange smile appeared on his lips. Even if she doesn't have the money, the person with her will pay it back for her. Yes. Meng Qi also reacted. She took out the IOU that Lu Qingran gave her from her storage bag. The black-clothed male cultivator with Lu Qingran was so powerful that he could definitely help her pay back the spirit stones. She quickly walked out of Rosy Lane. I'm going to collect the debt. Chapter 50. In every city in the 3,000 worlds and 4 realms, there would be a cultivator alliance. Similar to the medical cultivator alliance, they usually would not interfere with the internal affairs of the large sections. They would help mediate conflicts and solve some problems between cultivators. For example, debts and so on. Meng Qi could not find Lu Qingran, so she could only take the IOU with her consciousness mark and find the cultivator alliance. They could collect the debt for her, but they would take 1/10 of it as a reward. The cultivator alliance of Huajiang Prefecture was in the East City. It was a quick walk from Wishing Lane. The person on duty at the Cultivator Alliance today took the IOU and looked at it. He was slightly surprised. He looked up at Meng Qi, who was standing in front of him. She was only a Foundation Establishment cultivator, but there were 3 9th-grade spirit stones and 500 8th-grade spirit stones on the IOU. So much? That person was surprised, but he did not ask anything. He only said, according to the rules, you have to take 1/10 of the spirit stones to the Alliance. Yes. Meng Qi nodded. Can you do it as soon as possible? The auction was in 2 days. To be honest, Lu Qingran owed more than a few hundred 9th-grade spirit stones for the blazing feather. However, it was better to pay as much as possible. If you want to rush it, then you will need to pay an additional 100 8th-grade spirit stones. Yes. Meng Qi nodded. Can you do it in 1 day? Come again tomorrow evening. That person finished the formalities for Meng Qi and made a mark on the IOU. Thank you. Meng Qi handed the IOU to the other party and left the Cultivator Alliance. What else could she do? She stood in the center of Huajiang Prefecture. What else could she do if she could accumulate enough spirit stones in a short time? If she refined the Dark North pill again, the price would not be higher than last time. Even if she doubled the quantity, it would be difficult to sell it for a high price. A few hundred 8th-grade spirit stones would not be of much help. Meng Qi looked up at the sky. The names of the medicinal pills she could refine flashed through her mind. She knew that if she was willing to sell the method of combining formations and medicinal pills, she might be able to sell it for a high price. But no. Although Meng Qi had contributed to this matter, from the alchemy array to the combination of the pill and the array, without his teacher, it would have been impossible. He was the true expert in spirit arrays, and only he could come up with so many ingenious ideas. Meng Qi was very grateful to be taught. She felt that she was not qualified to sell the method. Other than that, she checked her storage bag. She was a Zhuji and didn't have anything of value. Even if they forced Qin Xiaoma to pay off his debt, it was still far from enough. What are you worried about? Qin Xiaoma had been waiting outside since the beginning. Seeing that Meng Qi was sometimes frowning and sometimes confused, he asked, You don't have enough spirit stones? If you buy it directly, it might work. It will be very difficult to sell them at the auction, Meng Qi said. Is there a way to buy it directly? Qin Xiaoma asked. Do you know who sent the Jiu to the auction? Of course not. Meng Qi shook her head. They will keep it a secret for the owner of the Jiu. How much more do we need? It's hard to say. According to Su Junmo, we need to prepare at least 500 9th-grade spirit stones, Meng Qi said. It might not even be enough. Qin Xiaoma thought about it, and was a little helpless. Even if he hadn't been betrayed and hadn't fallen to his current state, a few hundred 9th-grade spirit stones were not a small number for him. Do we have to buy the Jiu? He couldn't help but ask again. Yes, Mengqi responded in a low voice. She thought about it and walked towards the Cloud Immortal Pavilion first. Forget it, she should refine some medicinal pills first and sell them for as much as she could. The Cloud Immortal Pavilion sold most of the common medicinal herbs in the 3,000 worlds. Mengqi spent 200 8th-grade spirit stones to buy enough medicinal herbs and the materials needed to draw the array. She almost filled her storage bag to the brim before returning to Rosy Lane. She returned to the small courtyard she rented and let little Qi out first. Then she closed the door and took out all the spirit herbs and spirit flowers. The bitter medicinal fragrance instantly filled the room. Little Qi jumped onto the bed and turned to look at her. He watched as Mengqi started to draw the fire formation and took out the small cauldron for alchemy. The array that Mengqi drew on the ground this time was a little complicated. There were a total of 6 overlapping arrays. The arrays overlapped with each other. In the end, the 6 arrays formed the shape of a hexagram. In the center of the hexagram, there was a new independent array. The small cauldron was placed in the center. Little Qi was a little numb. Mengqi could even draw the star array of the White Tiger clan, let alone other arrays. He watched as the little girl busily walked back and forth in front of him. And guess what she wanted to do? She wanted the blazing feather. She wanted the blazing feather for her injuries. Little Qi's blue eyes gradually became gentle. He looked at Mengqi and felt the other was like a hard-working little rabbit, obedient and clever. It made him want to rub her soft hair. At the same time, in the suburbs 300 li away from Huajiang Manor, under the Green Mountain, Lu Qingran helped the black-robed Xiuzha sit down beside a large rock. They leaned against a large tree. The shade of the tree blocked almost all the sunlight. Only fragments of light fell through the cracks and landed on Lu Qingran's small face. It made the fear in her eyes even more obvious. "You." Her eyes flashed slightly as she murmured, "Are you well?" "Ha!" The black-robed Xiuzha still wore the bamboo hat, the black veil completely covering his face. His low chuckle was less mocking and more joyful than when he had been in the Black Cloud Mountain villa. He raised his hand, and his slender and pale fingers suddenly grasped Lu Qingran's small chin. "Worried about me, HM?" His tone carried faint scorn. "Or hoping that I will be more seriously wounded, so you can take the chance to escape?" "I'm not. I'm real. Didn't you say before that you could not easily act? Why did you?" As Lu Qingran spoke, her voice softened. She slowly lowered her head. She did not want the other to see the blush on her face and a part of her slender and white neck. "If I don't act to intimidate them, I will not be able to leave that place." The black-robed male snorted coldly. "Those people, other than your shimmy, are all above Jindan, and one is Yuanying. If we really act, who am I now?" The black-robed male suddenly turned his head. Even through the black veil, his gaze seemed to shoot into the distance like a tangible sword. Lu Qingran jumped in fright, and also raised her head to look into the distance. Around the two were green mountains that rose and fell. The trees were tall and covered the sky. Then Lu Qingran saw that on the trees around them, at some unknown time, 4 people had silently stood up. The 4 people were wearing deep blue Xiuzha robes without any insignias on their bodies. They didn't look very old, about 30 years old. However, in the 3,000 worlds with countless beauties, their appearances were at most average. They were the type that would be easily ignored if thrown into a crowd. Yet right now, the 4 people were standing on the treetops, their slender figures slowly rising and falling as the wind blew through the trees. It seemed that there was a hint of murderous coldness to them. Lu Qingran was swept by the gaze of one of the people, and couldn't help but shudder. She had not detected when these people had appeared at all. Or when they left Huajiangfu, these people had followed them. The black-robed male did not move, and continued to sit firmly next to the large rock. His back was against the trunk of the large tree, as though he did not care about the sudden appearance of the 4 Xiuzha. His right hand slowly moved down and grasped Lu Qingran's hand. An icy and small jade pendant was shoved into Lu Qingran's hand. Lu Qingran turned in shock to look at the black-robed male. He didn't even look at her. The 4 people that had suddenly appeared here were all Yuanying Xiuzha. When he was unharmed, he naturally would not fear them. But right now, He could not even guarantee that he could escape unharmed. It was even more impossible to take Lu Qingran with him. In this moment, there was only the sound of the wind blowing through the treetops and the rustling of the leaves in the forest. The four blue-robed Xiuzha and the black-robed male did not speak first. Lu Qingran lowered her head to look at the jade pendant in her hand. There was a blood-red spot on the green jade pendant. The carving of the jade pendant was crude, and there was almost no extra decoration. But the more Lu Qingran looked at that drop of blood red, the more she felt it was mysterious. It was as though that was not the color of the jade pendant itself, but someone's blood that had dripped onto it to form this blood-red spot. Lu Qingran had heard the black-robed male mention that if he was killed, he would give her a token before he died for her to think of a way to throw it into the sea of fallen stars. So right now, was he prepared to die? Lu Qingran raised her head to look at the black-robed male. She could not clearly see the other's expression through the black gauze. She turned her head to look at the four blue-robed Xiuzha, who were silent on the treetops. They were still standing there silently. Lu Qingran could not see the cultivation of these four people. Thinking about it, they were definitely much higher than her, and more powerful than this person, which was why he was so wary. She suddenly tightened her fist, gripping the jade pendant tightly in her hand, and then stood up. Lu Qingran spread her arms and stood in front of the black-robed male. She raised her head to look at the four blue-robed Xiuzha. "You," she swallowed with some fear, and turned her head to look at the black-robed male. Lu Qingran closed her eyes, her face red. She gathered her courage and said loudly, "You can't hurt him." "Ha!" The black-robed male's snicker came from behind her. This time, the joy and the laughter was even more obvious. It was as though he was laughing at Lu Qingran's overestimation of her abilities, and as though he was admiring her bravery. Lu Qingran's face burned even more, but she still tried to straighten her back. She raised her head to look at the four unfamiliar Xiuzha. He's not a bad person. You can't hurt him." "Huh?" The black-robed male gave a low laugh. Under the black gauze, that pair of cold and emotionless eyes became a bit warmer. It was like the snow that never melted on top of a tall mountain was finally being brushed by the spring wind, and started to melt a bit. Lu Qingran stomped her feet and said in a low voice, embarrassed and angry, "Don't laugh. Silly child." The black-robed male seemed to sigh lightly. He hadn't planned on moving originally, but now he slowly stood up using the large rock as support. He took a step forward and walked next to Lu Qingran, standing shoulder to shoulder with her. The black-robed male was very tall. When he stood up like this, it made Lu Qingran seem exceptionally timid and lovable. "Stand behind me." His tone was faint, and his gaze became sharp as he looked at the four Xiuzha. "It's not such an easy matter to hurt me," he said carelessly. Even though he was wounded, the arrogance in his tone did not decrease. "Come." The black-robed male raised his hand, his pale finger pointing at one of the Xiuzha. "You two have misunderstood." One of the four Xiuzha that had been silent since they appeared suddenly spoke. As he spoke, he moved to the side and allowed a male behind him to walk out. The fifth Xiuzha. The black-robed male narrowed his eyes. His other hand that was hanging at his side was already gripping a talisman. Jindan. Usually, there was nothing to worry about. Right now, each additional Xiuzha could be the straw that broke the camel's back. Even if it was just Juji. Misunderstanding? He sneered inside. The four Yuanying Xiuzha were standing in a fan formation. When they acted, they would be extremely fast. They could instantly surround him, and Lu Qingran in the center. What misunderstanding could there be? "Fellow Taoists." A smile appeared on the face of the Jindan Xiuzha that had just arrived. "I have no ill intentions towards you two. May I ask if this fellow is fellow Taoist Lu Qingran?" Lu Qingran stilled. Did he come to find her? She instinctively took a step closer to the black-robed male, and carefully glanced at the Xiuzha. Even though the other had a smile on his face, she hesitated for a long time before slowly nodding. I am Lu Qingran." Lu Qingran took a deep breath, and instinctively grabbed the arm of the black-robed male beside her. The other did not have any intentions of breaking free from her. She released a small breath, and raised her eyes to look at the Jindan Xiuzha. "May I ask if fellow Taoist has some business with me?" It's like this. The Jindan Xiuzha explained with a smile. I am the clerk of the Xiuzha Alliance's Huajiang Manor. Does fellow Taoist Lu still remember the matter of you previously owing fellow Taoist Meng Qi spirit stones and writing an IOU? Lu Qingran was dazed. I remember. Then that's good. That Jindan Xiuzha seemed to release a breath, and his smile became even warmer. Fellow Taoist Meng has entrusted us, the Xiuzha Alliance, to collect this debt for her. Fellow Taoist Lu, please return the money. Lu Qingran blinked. Her mind was still in a mess, and she did not react at all. Meng Qi had entrusted the Xiuzha Alliance to collect the debt? She was a bit confused. So these people, weren't they here to kill her and him? She instinctively turned her head to look at the black-robed male beside her. She clearly felt the arm that she was carefully holding stiffen. Lu Qingran naturally knew about the Xiuzha Alliance. She also knew that the Xiuzha Alliance would indeed help Xiuzha do these things. Those were the rules set down after that catastrophe thousands of years ago. These years, no matter how fierce the open and covert struggles of the Xiuzha were, everyone still abided by the rules set by the Xiuzha Alliance on the surface. Lu Qingran nervously swallowed again. She felt that the scene in front of her seemed familiar. Mengqi, junior martial sister Meng chasing people for spirit stones. She really had not changed at all. Fellow Taoist Lu. The Jindan Xiuzha of the Xiuzha Alliance patiently reminded her again. Fellow Taoist Meng has requested to collect the spirit stones that fellow Taoist Lu owes her in one day. Fellow Taoist, please do not make things difficult for us, and return the money as soon as possible. Lu Qingran. Her face burned even more fiercely than before. She was being watched by 5 unfamiliar and very powerful Xiuzha. With the black-robed male beside her, she opened her mouth, and her voice was like a mosquito. But I don't have that many spirit stones. Lu Qingran said hesitantly. Don't talk about 9th grade spirit stones. 8th grade spirit stones were an astronomical figure that was out of reach for a Zhuji Xiuzha like her. Lu Qingran only felt that 6 pairs of eyes seemed to be shooting towards her. She was so ashamed that she wanted to cover her face and immediately run away. Her family was wealthy, and her life since she was born could be considered good. Later, the sect leader of Clearwind Valley took a fancy to her. He felt that her medical talent was outstanding, and brought her back to Clearwind Valley to be accepted as a direct disciple. When she entered the sect, she was greatly doted on by her master. Even the Shixiang and Shiji who entered the sect earlier than her were courteous to her. Even when something happened in Clearwind Valley, and she was unanimously criticized by her fellow sect members, she was quickly taken away by the black-robed male. She did not feel embarrassed. But now, in front of so many people, she was being chased for a debt in public. Lu Qingran's face became redder and redder. Her eyelashes trembled slightly, and the rims of her eyes turned red. Her nose turned sour. She could not understand why junior martial sister Meng Qi would treat her like this. At the very least, they were once fellow sect members. Also, junior martial sister Meng Qi had earned so many spirit stones. She as a Zhuji should not lack money. Why did she have to force her like this? To embarrass her? But this promissory note is personally left by fellow Taoist Lu's consciousness. It is not fake. Then, the Jindan cultivator furrowed his brow. How many spirit stones does fellow Taoist Lu have? 103rd grade spirit stones. Lu Qingran's hands trembled as she took out all the spirit stones she had from her storage pouch. Her eyelashes trembled even more, and her nose turned sour. When she took out the spirit stones, tears rolled down her bright cheeks. The black-robed male. He turned to look at Lu Qingran. The other's tears finally made him recover from the shock of discovering that these people had only come to collect a debt. He took a deep breath and said coldly, "How many spirit stones does she owe? I will pay it back for her." As the black-robed male spoke, he touched his storage pouch and took out a small brocade pouch. To be honest, he slightly despised these people. What Xiuzha alliance? For a promissory note between 2 Zhuji, they had sent out 4 Yuanying Xiuzha and 1 Jindan to collect the debt. If the Xiuzha alliances of the 3,000 worlds were all at this level, It seemed that they would be finished sooner or later even if they didn't act. That's fine. The Jindan cultivator said with a smile. 3 9th grade spirit stones, 500 8th grade spirit stones. The black-robed male. How much? He thought that he had misheard. 3 9th grade spirit stones, 500 8th grade spirit stones. The Jindan cultivator patiently repeated. The black-robed male's hand holding the brocade pouch instantly froze. He was extremely embarrassed. He couldn't throw the brocade pouch out, nor could he take it back. If this was before he was injured and forced to leave that place, he wouldn't care about 3 9th grade spirit stones. Even if it was 300, he wouldn't care too much. But now, there were only 200 8th grade spirit stones in the brocade pouch. The black-robed male had fled in shame. Other than the 3 life-saving talismans and the several hundred 8th grade spirit stones, he didn't have anything else. He had spent a lot of spirit stones in this period of time. Even if he took it all out, it wouldn't be enough to pay back Lu Qingran's debt. Those 3 talismans definitely couldn't be seen by the people of the Xiuzha Alliance. The black-robed male froze where he stood. Under the black gauze, his sickly pale cheeks were dyed dark red. He gripped the brocade pouch in his hand tightly. He couldn't take it back, nor could he throw it out. This shimmy of yours. A long while later he glanced at Lu Qingran and said through gritted teeth, "She's very good at getting money." Lu Qingran's tears rolled down again as she furiously nodded. The black-robed male took a deep breath and threw the brocade pouch in his hand to the people of the Xiuzha Alliance. "Take these first, the rest. Apologies." The Jindan cultivator said with a smile. "Fellow Taoist Meng Qi has paid enough compensation. We must recover the spirit stones that fellow Taoist Lu Qingran owes her before tomorrow evening." The black-robed male's tone instantly became irritated. "We don't have that many spirit stones." This was probably the case of a dragon in shallow water being played by a shrimp. He had never thought that there would be a day when he would be forced to act like a scoundrel who wanted to renege on a debt because of a few 9th grade spirit stones. Meng Qi, right? He would remember it. Then, the Jindan cultivator said with a slight smile. "We won't force you too hard. According to convention, we will first pay fellow Taoist Lu's debt to fellow Taoist Meng tomorrow." As he spoke, he flicked a small porcelain bottle towards Lu Qingran. "This is a soul-gathering pill, fellow Taoist Lu, please take it. Next, we will assign fellow Taoists some missions until you earn enough spirit stones." The Jindan cultivator paused and then said, "When the time comes, we will naturally give you the antidote." Lu Qingran held the small porcelain bottle, her entire body shaking. The soul-gathering pill could leave behind an imprint in a Xiuzha's spiritual sea. The most special thing was that only the Xiuzha who made this soul-gathering pill had a way to remove the imprint left behind by this pill. As long as she took it, it meant that from now on, she would be under the control of these people and would have to listen obediently. Lu Qingran grabbed the black-clothed man's arm in fear. Her tears fell even faster. She didn't want to take the soul-gathering pill. She was really scared. The black-clothed man seemed to sigh softly again. He had already completely calmed down, and his gaze was even sharper than before. He said to the Jindan cultivator, "Give me one." He said, "I will accept the mission with her." "Okay." The Jindan cultivator thought for a moment, and flicked a small porcelain bottle. The black-clothed man swallowed the soul-gathering pill without hesitation. "Assign the mission," he said coldly. "Nascent soul 7th stage, you can give as many missions as possible with high rewards. Then we will have to trouble fellow Taoist." The Jindan cultivator smiled slightly. He stared at Lu Qingran, and took the soul-gathering pill before flicking out a bamboo scroll. "Mystic Cloud Mountain Villa is requesting help. There are Yao Xiuzha around Huajiang Manor, who are harming people with divine devouring vines. Please go and kill these Yao Xiuzha. The mission will be based on the number of Yao Xiuzha killed. The reward for killing a 4th stage Yao Xiuzha is 108 stage spirit stones." "Wuxia." Calm, the black-clothed man snorted coldly. Under Lu Qingran's careful and worried gaze, he turned and walked towards the big tree he was leaning against earlier. "I know," he said coldly. "I will go and kill them." "Thank you, fellow Taoist." The Jindan cultivator from the Xiuzha Alliance cupped his hands in greeting. He turned and headed towards Huajiang Manor with his 4 companions with a smile. Lu Qingran waited for them to leave before slowly walking to the black-clothed man's side. She half-knelt, her eyes still red. "I'm sorry, it's all my fault. But I didn't know that Junior Marshal's sister Meng would treat me like this." As Lu Qingran spoke, she started to cry again. "Don't cry," the black-clothed man said indifferently. "Sooner or later, I will go and properly deal with this Meng Qi. She would definitely repay today's humiliation 100-fold. Meng Qi busied herself until the evening of the second day. Finally, she finished refining 9 medicinal pills. She exhaled a long breath and stuffed those dark brown medicinal pills into 9 different porcelain bottles in satisfaction. It was obviously too late to sell them now. She could only ask at the auction tomorrow whether these medicinal pills could be directly counted as spirit stones and used to bid for Blazing Feather. She saw that it was about time. She turned and stroked little Qi, who was lying on the bed, back into the beast house. Then she quickly walked towards the Xiuzha Alliance. At the same time, all the cultivators who were qualified to enter the Sky Beyond Sky auction house, as long as they were in the Sky Beyond Sky, had their nameplates lightly vibrate. They subconsciously checked the news. Their faces all revealed astonished expressions at the same time. Chapter 51. Meng Qi quickly received the spirit stones that Lu Qingran owed her from the Huajiang Prefecture Cultivator Alliance. "Fellow Daoist, please check." The smiling golden core cultivator handed the brocade bag to her. According to the rules, 1/5 of the spirit stones will be deducted to the alliance. Meng Qi nodded. She quickly glanced at the spirit stones in the brocade bag. Actually, there was not much left. There was still 1 day left. It was hard to think of another way. Shuqian, these are the inner cores of 2 third-stage demon cultivators. These are the divine devouring vines in their hands. Meng Qi was about to leave when another male cultivator walked into the Cultivator Alliance. Before he came in, his loud voice was heard. "It's amazing. The Huajiang Prefecture is far from the demon realm. Why are there so many demon cultivators here recently? And they are all holding this damn thing. Damn, it's really powerful. Luckily, I made sufficient preparations. Otherwise, I might have been hurt by this thing. Ha! You have people here?" After that person finished speaking, he had already walked into the Cultivator Alliance's main hall. Meng Qi turned to look at him. The person who came was a strong man who looked about 30 years old. He was actually quite handsome. He had thick eyebrows, big eyes, and short black hair. He looked a little wild and flamboyant. The male cultivator had a full beard and wore a short-sleeved cultivator's uniform. It matched his tone of voice very well. The person he called Su Qian was the golden core cultivator who always had a smile on his face. He was obviously very familiar with this male cultivator. He said, "Ji Wenyuan, I told you to be careful when you speak in the Cultivator Alliance." Sorry. The male cultivator called Ji Wenyuan lowered his voice. He scratched his head embarrassedly. This sorry was for Meng Qi. The Huajiang Prefecture is a small place. There are very few people here. I didn't know you were here. Don't blame me for offending you. Meng Qi shook her head and smiled at him. Her gaze landed on the 2 divine devouring vines on the ground. Even as a weapon, they were divine devouring vines with green leaves and all kinds of flowers. At this moment, it looked as if it had been burned by something. Half of it had turned into charcoal. "Pay up," Ji Wenyuan said to Su Qian. 2 third-stage demon cultivators. I even brought back a divine devouring vine. You'll have to double the price. Su Qian shook his head in amusement and tossed him a brocade pouch. "Take it. Let me see." Ji Wenyuan looked into the brocade pouch and muttered. A 3rd-stage Yao cultivator costs 107th-stage spirit stones. 407th grade spirit stones. Wow. Is this divine devouring vine so valuable? You should have said so earlier. No, I brought it back for you last time. Thanks. As Ji Wenyuan spoke, he threw the brocade pouch into his storage pouch, turned around, cupped his hands towards Meng Qi, and strode out the door. Meng Qi's heart skipped a beat. After Ji Wenyuan left, he took the initiative to ask Su Qian, fellow Daoist, "Can I exchange these demon cultivators with divine devouring vines for spirit stones?" "That's right." Su Qian smiled and looked at Meng Qi. A Foundation establishment cultivator actually felt that a sum of 9th stage spirit stones was not enough for him? Su Qian was a cultivator who had already entered the nascent soul stage. He was already quite happy to earn a few hundred 7th stage spirit stones. He was a little surprised, but he still smiled. A 3rd stage Yao cultivator costs 107th stage spirit stones. A 4th stage Yao cultivator costs 108th stage spirit stones. If you bring back a divine devouring vine, you'll be paid the same amount of spirit stones. He hesitated for a while but still said, a 2nd stage demon cultivator costs 106th stage spirit stones. However, there shouldn't be any demon cultivators of this level who can bring a divine devouring vine into the trichiliocosm. Thank you. Meng Qi cupped her hands towards him. She turned around and walked out of the alliance. Qin Xiaoma and Chu Tianfeng, one in black and the other in black, were leaning against the outer wall of the alliance. Su Junmo stood on the other side, looking normal. However, his gaze was obviously accusing Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiaoma. Hearing the commotion, the three of them all looked towards Meng Qi. Ahem. Meng Qi hesitated for a moment. I want to hunt the demon cultivators from Huajiang Manor, who brought the divine devouring vine to invade. She walked straight towards Qin Xiaoma. The Cultivator Alliance can use the demon cultivator's inner core and divine devouring vine to exchange for spirit stones. Take it as me hiring you. Other than that, we will distribute the spirit stones fairly according to how much effort we put in. Qin Xiaoma hesitated. How many spirit stones can we exchange for? A 3rd stage demon cultivator costs 107th stage spirit stones, Meng Qi said. She was in the Foundation establishment stage, and Qin Xiaoma had not been completely cured of his qi deviation. Now he was only at the 3rd or 4th stage of the Golden Core stage. The only ones they could hunt were 3rd-tier Yao cultivators. Qin Xiaoma hesitated. Then would he accidentally pay off all his debts? He was not willing to do that. Hunt the demon cultivators from the divine devouring vine? Chu Tianfeng saw Qin Xiaoma hesitate. He sneered in his heart, knowing what this guy was thinking. He was just afraid that he would get too excited and pay off his debt in one go. Seeing that Meng Qi was still not looking at him, he could only go over and say, he doesn't dare to go. I'll go with you. Chu Tianfeng could be considered to have figured out Meng Qi's thoughts during this period. Of course, the spirit stones exchanged by the Cultivator Alliance will be distributed fairly according to how much effort we put in. He could see that Meng Qi was very short of spirit stones recently. As the young palace master of the Burning Sky Palace, the sex resources were naturally given to him. Chu Tianfeng was definitely not short of cultivation resources, but he really did not have many spirit stones. The Dharma treasures that the sect gave him were not cheap, but they could not be casually exchanged for spirit stones. Meng Qi had taken back Lu Qingran's debt, which was a huge transaction of 9th stage spirit stones. He was still short of money now. Chu Tianfeng really did not dare to pat his chest and say that he would make up for the rest. He could take out a few hundred 8th stage spirit stones, but Meng Qi would definitely not take it from him for free, and it probably would not be enough. Chu Tianfeng understood this point and instantly made up his mind. He said righteously, Huajiang Mansion is so close to the burning city. If we don't get rid of these guys, it will be troublesome if they run to the burning city and hurt people. I'll go with you. Okay. Meng Qi nodded. Who said I don't dare? Qin Xiaoma glared at Chu Tianfeng coldly. I was just thinking that it would be too troublesome to kill them one by one. Is there any way to gather them together and annihilate them in one go? Chu Tianfeng sneered. Then have you thought of a way? Let's go and take a look first. The two of them were especially united when they were fighting against others or Su Junmo. Once the external threat was eliminated, it would be too easy to betray each other. Let's go, Meng Qi. Qin Xiaoma said. The demon cultivators probably won't dare to enter Huajiang Mansion. After all, the city has a protective array. They won't be able to enter without a token from the Cultivator Alliance. Yes. Mengqi nodded. She knew this. If the demon cultivators and demonic cultivators wanted to come and go freely in the 3,000 worlds, they had to be like Su Junmo and have a token from the Cultivator Alliance in their hands. Otherwise, it would be fine in the wild, but once they entered the city's protective array would be activated and they would be automatically attacked. That's not necessarily true, Chu Tianfeng said. I heard from father that the demon cultivators and demonic cultivators have ways to hide their auras and hide from the array. Unless the city's array seems to be supported by a powerful person, they won't be able to be found out. Those who can enter the 3,000 worlds through the barrier cracks are at most 4th stage demon cultivators, which is equivalent to our nascent soul cultivators. Can they hide from the city's protective array? Don't forget, all the protective arrays that can be called cities in the 3,000 worlds were set up by the Cultivator Alliance's top artifact cultivator sects from the 4 realms. Qin Xiaoma didn't give in at all and argued back. This method of hiding one's aura is a spell art, not a realm. Chu Tianfeng didn't back down either. Perhaps low-level demon cultivators and demonic cultivators can cultivate their spells to a high realm and hide from the array. Isn't Mengqi the same? Some spells can be cultivated to a realm that far surpasses one's own cultivation realm. It's because of this that they can save your life. Don't tell me you've already forgotten? Azu. Orc Qin Xiaoma's lips curled up, and his gaze turned cold. You're comparing the demon cultivators to Mengqi? F*ck. Chu Tianfeng flew into a rage. He obviously didn't mean it that way. He opened his mouth and his mind spun rapidly, thinking of how to refute. Su Junmo, who had been stunned in place for a while, suddenly chased after them again. Are you guys going to hunt down those invading demon cultivators with divine devouring vines? Then I have to go, he said. Take me with you, Mengqi. Chu Tianfeng shut his mouth and looked at Qin Xiaoma. Qin Xiaoma nodded slowly. What are you going to do? Chu Tianfeng asked. There are 3 of us. There's a spell cultivator, Qin who cultivates both sword techniques, and Mengqi who cultivates medicine. It's enough. That's right, and we're going to hunt down rank 3 demon cultivators. There's no need to trouble you, Qin Xiaoma added. The 3 of us are enough. We don't want to share the spirit stones with a 4th person. Didn't you guys just say that you want to get rid of these guys together in one go? Su Junmo said. I have an idea. If the 3 of you cooperate with me, we'll even kill the rank 4 demon cultivators together. This way, everyone will have more spirit stones to share. Qin Xiaoma and Chu Tianfeng looked at each other again. They couldn't make the decision on this, so they could only look at Mengqi. Okay. Mengqi nodded. Let's do as we said just now. We'll split the spirit stones according to how much effort we put in. To her, it didn't matter who she worked with. If Su Junmo joined them, they would get more spirit stones in the end. It was quite good. Chu Tianfeng gritted his teeth and asked reluctantly, What idea do you have? I have an idea too, Mengqi said. Let's talk as we walk. As she spoke, she took out a bamboo slip and quickly wrote her idea on it. Then she handed it to Su Junmo. Ha! Su Junmo looked at it and widened his eyes in surprise. It's possible, but this array... He was really a little scared. The method Mengqi listed was very simple. He and Chu Tianfeng would lure the enemy deep. With Mengqi himself as bait, they would set up the 4 extreme array to trap the demon cultivators who were lured in. But that was the 4 extreme array. Su Junmo didn't know what expression he should have on his face at this moment. That was a secret technique of the heavenly demon White Tiger clan. It was not taught to non-white tigers. Even after following his lord for so many years, he had only heard of this name, and seen his lord use it a few times. As for how to set up the array, he didn't know anything. It was impossible for him to know. This array. Su Junmo muttered and repeated, half testing and half looking at Mengqi in surprise. His heart was full of doubts. Even his lord couldn't break the rules of the heavenly demon. In other words, I have no idea. As soon as Mengqi spoke, Su Junmo subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. As expected, Meng-Chi still didn't know how to do it. Otherwise, he was hesitating whether he should kneel down and greet Her Highness, the Demon Empress. Set up the entire array. Meng-Chi continued. Su Junmo's knees went soft, and he really wanted to kneel. He had thought of many possibilities before. Although he secretly muttered that Meng-Chi might be the future Demon Empress, she was still the future, wasn't she? It was more likely that he still felt that this young Foundation establishment cultivator was his lord's little lover in the 3,000 realms. In the future, even if his lord returned to the peak, it would be difficult to bring her back to the demon realm. It would be difficult for the Heavenly Demon Elder Council to agree. Among them was his lord's granduncle. No matter how much his lord doted on Meng-Chi, there was little hope for her to officially become the empress. But the 4 Extreme Array, the Heavenly Demon White Tiger clan, would only pass it down to their clansmen. Not everyone in the Heavenly Demon White Tiger clan knew how to set up the 4 Extremes formation. Su Junmo could count on one hand those who had mastered it. His lord's granduncle, uncles, his lord himself, an elder of the White Tiger clan, and his lord's cousin. Now there was also Meng-Chi. Su Junmo looked at Meng-Chi with some despair. Should he kneel? Or not? He decided to struggle. What do you mean you can't set it up completely? Only part of it? Meng-Chi glanced at him. Su Junmo's expression looked like despair mixed with sadness, and there was also unwillingness and struggle in the sadness. Was it because of the 4 Extremes formation? Meng-Chi was a little uncertain. When her teacher taught her, he said that this was a very useful formation to trap enemies. He didn't say that there was anything special about the 4 Extremes formation. The complete 4 Extremes formation could even trap cultivators 3 levels higher than her. Of course, cultivators 3 levels higher than her could crush Meng-Chi in cultivation. At most, they would be trapped for half an hour before they could break out of the formation. No matter what, it would give her a chance to escape. However, setting up the complete 4 Extremes formation required a lot of materials, and had high demands on the cultivation of the Xiuzha. Setting up formations in 3,000 worlds required the use of a Xiuzha's Ling energy. Some large formations required the key parts to be completed in one go. Stopping in the middle to replenish Ling energy, and then continuing to draw would not be successful. Meng-Chi's present cultivation and Ling energy could not support her to draw the complete 4 Extremes formation. Even 1/10 was barely enough. Fortunately, Meng-Chi's cultivation in her last life had not been very high, so her teacher had taught her a few variations of the 4 Extremes formation. Variations were much simpler, and of course, the power was also much lower. Meng-Chi pondered for a moment. With Su Junmo and the others here, half an hour was enough for them to do many things. My current cultivation is not enough to set up a complete formation, Meng-Chi said. So I can only use variations. A change formation. Su Junmo stuttered. He had never seen anyone who knew the 4 Extremes formation could not set up a complete formation because their cultivation was not enough. What the hell was a change formation? Yes. Meng-Chi nodded. Wait for me. The 4 of them happened to pass by the Cloud Immortal Pavilion. She turned and walked inside. I'm going to buy something. She spent 500 grade 8 spirit stones to buy the materials needed to change the 4 Extremes formation. Meng-Chi actually did not care that much about spirit stones. She had spent them quite easily previously. Now, whenever she thought of Jiyu, she could not help but feel heartache. She had to kill a few more divine devouring vine demon cultivators. Otherwise, she would really suffer a loss if she shared the spirit stones with Chu Tianfeng and the others. Meng-Chi clenched her fists and made up her mind. It was only because Su Junmo joined that they had a way to kill grade 4 demon cultivators that she was willing to spend so much money. Outside the Cloud Immortal Pavilion, Su Junmo looked at Qin Xioma and then at Chu Tianfeng. He was still in a daze. You guys. He took a deep breath. For a moment, he even suspected that they might have an array with the same name. After all, among the cultivators of the 3,000 worlds, there were also artifact cultivators who were proficient in arrays. In the past 200 to 300 years, they had developed well, and seemed to be rising again. Su Junmo handed the bamboo slips to the 2 of them silently. He observed Chu Tianfeng and the others' expressions without blinking. What's this? Chu Tianfeng was the first to finish reading. He was a little confused. Meng Qi seems to be really good at arrays. Yes. Qin Xiuma nodded. You've never heard of this name? Su Zhenmo asked again. No. Chu Tianfeng shook his head. Burning Sky Palace is a sect of cultivators. We don't cultivate arrays. Neither have I. Qin Xiuma shook his head. Su Zhenmo. He was suddenly a little afraid. If Meng Qi really did set up the 4 extreme arrays later, wouldn't that mean that his lord had already admitted that she was? Let's go. Meng Qi had already come out of the Cloud Immortal Pavilion. She walked towards the 3 of them. Su Zhenmo, according to your understanding, where should we go first? Since the 4 of them had decided to work together to earn spirit stones, they were a team. Meng Qi didn't mince her words. She directly asked Su Zhenmo, who understood the habits of demon cultivators the most. Su Zhenmo was still a little dazed. He turned to look at Meng Qi. Now the other's status in his eyes had become even more different. After a while he met Meng Qi's clear and calm eyes and instantly quivered. Yes, belong to Meng Qi. What do you mean? Belong to what? Belong to the Red Fox race if they continue to cause trouble. Su Zhenmo was also a little annoyed. He hurriedly said, their race belongs to the fire element, and they like to stay in the east. As he spoke, he pointed at the east gate. Let's go to the east first. Okay. Meng Qi nodded. The 4 of them quickly walked towards the east gate. Huajiang Prefecture was also considered a prosperous city. Although it couldn't be compared to Burning City, it was still far better than Fresh Breeze Town. The news of demon cultivators using divine devouring vines to hurt people was suppressed by the mystic Cloud Mountain Villa. Ordinary citizens in the city didn't know about it. Only the Cultivator Alliance issued a mission to kill these demon cultivators in exchange for spirit stones. Meng Qi and the others walked towards the east gate. The atmosphere was still harmonious. Divine devouring vines usually wouldn't hurt ordinary people. After all, spirit energy was their best nourishment. After exiting the east gate of Huajiang Prefecture, there was a continuous mountain range. The forest was deep and serene. At a glance, everything was green. These guys like to hide in the dense forest, but... Su Zhenmo pondered, not knowing what to say. I've seen records about the Red Fox race in books, Meng Qi said. Actually, most of the information she knew about the Red Fox race was told to her by Su Zhenmo. They like beautiful women. The prettier and more enchanting, the easier it is to arouse their interest. As she spoke, her gaze slowly swept past Chu Tianfeng and the others' faces. Finally, it landed on Qin Xiuma's face. Qin Xiuma, take off your outerwear. Chapter 52. Meng Qi's idea was very simple. These people were all good-looking, but only Qin Xiuma owed her spirit stones. It would be more convenient for her to ask him to help her. Qin Xiuma was stunned for a moment. Then the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up. Does this count as Meng Qi's approval that I'm the best looking? Okay. He looked into Meng Qi's eyes and said softly. His slender fingers pressed on his belt as he asked hoarsely, Are you sure it's me? As he spoke, he glanced proudly at Chu Tianfeng. F***ck. Chu Tianfeng felt a little aggrieved. He was confident that his appearance, family background, figure, and talent in cultivation would not lose to Qin Xiuma. Moreover, he was now in high spirits and full of vitality. Unlike Qin Xiuma, who had not fully recovered and was still sick. Why did Meng Qi choose this guy and not me? Yes. Meng Qi answered casually. He took out a porcelain bottle from his storage bag and handed it to Qin Xiuma. Sprinkle it on your body. What is this? Just in case I get hurt by the divine devouring vines, Meng Qi explained as he turned around and continued walking forward. Chu Tianfeng took a step forward and walked side by side with her. He whispered to her. Can he do it? Don't waste all our efforts. What are you talking about? Qin Xiuma had already taken off his outer robe, revealing his upper body. He was severely injured when he was transcending the tribulation. In order to avoid being hunted down by his former close friend, he had escaped all the way from the southern border where his sect was located. He had stayed at the bottom of the cold pond in Cool Breeze Valley for a long time. His bronze-colored, healthy skin was still a little sickly pale at this moment. However, he was still young after all, so his recovery was still acceptable. His upper body, without a trace of fat, looked tight and tall. Qin Xiaoma walked beside Meng Qi. While sprinkling the powder on himself, he whispered, "Is this okay?" Meng Qi looked at him indifferently. His eyes were clear without any ripples. She turned to Su Junmo and asked, "Is this okay?" Su Junmo's eyes flashed. "Is that okay?" He didn't know what to say. Meng Qi's eyes were clear and magnanimous. Obviously, he had no thoughts about Qin Xiaoma. But did she know? White tigers were relatively rare in the demon realm. Once they found a partner, they would be loyal to a single heaven demon royal for life. Their possessiveness was absolutely outstanding in the three realms of human, demon, and demon. Su Junmo pondered what Meng Qi meant. She didn't have any feelings for Qin Xiaoma, but she obviously thought that he was a beauty. If His Majesty knew TSK, Su Junmo couldn't help but shudder. Su Junmo? Su Junmo? He was so engrossed in his thoughts that Meng Qi had to call him a few times before he recovered. "What? You, be more careful. Pay attention to the tracks on the road." Meng Qi stared at him for a moment. This Su Junmo seemed to have become strange ever since Hua Jiangfu. His gaze kept moving between her and Qin Xiaoma. It really wasn't normal for him to be so quiet even when he was far away from the crowd. "Oh, okay." Su Junmo nodded and started to seriously observe the surroundings. The four were all Xiuzha and their steps were not slow. They quickly left Hua Jiangfu behind and entered the depths of the forest. It was hard for the sunlight to shine through the leaves, and the surroundings gradually became dark. Small dots of light danced in the forest. The forest was silent except for the rustling of leaves in the wind, and the chirping of insects and birds. Su Junmo suddenly sped up and walked towards a large tree not far ahead. "This is..." He reached out and wiped a narrow mark on the tree trunk. He turned and called to Qin Xiaoma. "Come and see." Sword energy. Qin Xiaoma was a dual cultivator of sword arts and sword arts. His life bond weapon was a sword. He went forward and saw the 7 or 8 marks on the tree trunk were sword energy. "How is he compared to you?" Su Junmo asked. Qin Xiaoma held his breath. "He's a Yuanying Xiuzha," he emphasized. "His sword arts are not as good as mine, but his cultivation is higher." "So it's like this?" Su Junmo nodded. He looked down at the ground and bent down to pick up a dried leaf. The leaf was yellow and there was a dark brown drop of blood on it. Luckily, Su Junmo's ears were sharp and he immediately saw the dried blood on this little leaf. He put the leaf to his nose and sniffed. "It's red fox." "Heh." Su Junmo laughed coldly. These people had been really arrogant recently. It seemed that many people could not control themselves after Master's presence disappeared from the Yao world. "Let me see." Meng Qi went forward to take the leaf. The small drop of brown blood had already dried up. She flipped over the dried leaf and looked. She said in a low voice, "This is also caused by sword energy." Meng Qi raised her head as she spoke. The leaves on the leafy tree were still green. The leaf in her hand looked complete, but the color was yellow. So domineering. Meng Qi murmured. She had seen this kind of sword energy before, or rather, this kind of Ling energy. It didn't just injure people, it also cut off their vitality. The master of the sword energy could absorb Ling energy from the Xiuzha, and all things that they injured to recover themselves. When fighting against this kind of enemy, the other was almost invincible and very difficult to deal with. Meng Qi's mind moved, and something flashed through her mind. But that thought flashed past her mind, and before she could grasp anything, it had already disappeared. "What is it?" Qin Xiaoma asked. "Nothing." Meng Qi shook her head and knocked on her head. "Let's be careful." She turned and looked around. "It seems that someone has already been here. This blood stain," she used her finger to lightly wipe it. "It should have been left here 4 hours ago." Huajiang Mansion's Xiuzha Alliance has issued a mission to kill these Yao Xiuzha that sneak across the border and carry divine devouring vines in exchange for Ling stones. There will definitely be many Xiuzha participating. Su Junmo seemed to have regained some energy. Let's hurry. Okay. Mengqi nodded. She thought of that Ji1 Yuan. There should be many Xiuzha like this. Now that they had found the right direction, the four of them continued to walk forward. After walking for about 10 minutes, they arrived at a relatively open space. The surrounding forest was still dense and they could not see the end of it. Along the way, they could see the bloodstains left behind by Scarlet Fox. Occasionally, they would see the sword energy that they had seen before. Let's do it here. Mengqi looked around. I'll stay here to set up the array. You guys go and lure the enemies. No, Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xioma said in unison. I'll stay and accompany you. No need. Mengqi shook her head. Even if I encounter a 4th stage demon, I can still hold on for at least 5 minutes. You guys can rush back in time. That won't do. Chu Tianfeng was anxious. What if they all swarm us? Then I can still hold on for 5 minutes, Mengqi said with certainty. She had once used the 4 extremes array to change the array to stop the enemy. If the other party was a 7th stage or 8th stage nascent soul cultivator, then she really might not be able to hold on for 5 minutes. If it was a demon, she could do it. No. Su Junmo also interrupted. I'll stay. If it was really the 4 extremes array, those stupid and bad Scarlet Foxes would not even need to enter the array. They would be so scared that they would not dare to move for a long time. But what if Mengqi was bragging? What if she didn't know the 4 extremes array of the heavenly demons at all, but another array with the same name? If something really happened to her, wouldn't his lord tear him apart alive? He did not dare to take the risk. I can really do it myself. Mengqi felt helpless in her heart. She also knew that her cultivation level was too low, so it was hard for her to convince others. Moreover, she had other ideas. If the Scarlet Foxes were really nearby and saw that she was alone, they would immediately pounce on her. In any case, we can't let you stay alone, Chu Tianfeng said directly. You pick one to stay behind, and the other 2 go find them. Mengqi. Her gaze swept across the faces of the 3 people. Their expressions were extremely firm. It was rare for them to stand on the same side. Chu Tianfeng and the others did not even argue with Su Junmo. The talkative fox was eliminated first. If Qin Xioma wanted to lure the enemy, then young Palace Master Chu. Mengqi looked at Chu Tianfeng and said decisively, I'll have to trouble you to stay. Okay. Chu Tianfeng was extremely happy. He raised his eyebrows and the corners of his lips curled up. He stood beside Mengqi and waved at the other 2. You guys go quickly. Don't waste time, lest that sword cultivator steal Mengqi's business. Qin Xioma. He and Su Junmo looked at each other, then turned around and walked into the forest side by side. Mengqi watched the 2 of them leave. She took out materials from her storage bag and began to set up an array in the open space. This was one of the variations of the 4 extremes array, because it was used to trap enemies and protect their lives. When her master taught her, he forced her to memorize it thoroughly. It was no exaggeration to say that as long as there were enough materials, Mengqi could set up this array completely even with her eyes closed. She grabbed the materials needed to set up the array and began to busy herself in the open space. Her thin and slender figure was like a diligent sparrow. She diligently drew the formation while skillfully throwing the materials to the various points of the array. The 4 extremes array itself was very complicated, but the first variation of the array wasn't. Mengqi was a foundation-building cultivator. She could draw a complete array even if she exhausted her spirit energy. In the beast house, little Qi lay there lazily. No one could tell what she was thinking from her blue eyes. It could see what Mengqi was doing. It watched the slender figure quickly draw arrays in the open space. After every array, Mengqi had to stop and wait for her spirit energy to recover. The 4 extremes array, little Qi's expression was numb. This was the secret of the Sky Demon White Tiger clan. It was far less precious than the star array of the White Tiger clan, But knowing the four extremes array meant that Meng Qi was recognized as a member of the Sky Demon White Tiger clan. Of course, it was natural that Meng Qi, who knew the star array, would also know the four extremes array. But who had taught her this? The range seemed to become smaller and smaller. Other than herself, there were only 4 people in the clan who knew the four extremes array. Granduncle and the elder had already retired from worldly affairs, and hadn't left the Yao world for thousands of years. It clearly wasn't them. Then, was it her cousin or her uncle? Little Qi's eyes narrowed slightly as she watched Meng Qi work diligently in the open space. Soon, she had set up 7 or 8 variations of the four extremes array on the small open space. They almost covered the entire open space. Little Qi was so angry she almost laughed. This was the Sky Demon White Tiger's great enemy trapping array. If a powerful person set it up, it could trap any being in the 3 realms. In the past, the Sky Demon White Tiger had dominated the world. When the 3 realms heard the name of the four extremes array, they would tremble and flee. Did she set it up just to trap those little red foxes? Then she could earn spirit stones. Fine, Meng Qi was also earning spirit stones for herself. Little Qi's furry claws gently rubbed on the ground. He was still a little annoyed. She's here. Chu Tianfeng, who had been guarding at the side, suddenly looked into the distance with a flicker in his eyes. He quickly walked to Meng Qi's side and raised his hand to form a seal. A circle of blue flames instantly ignited around them, protecting the entire open space. Delicate laughter came from all directions. In the midst of the laughter, an extremely enchanting and charming woman's voice sounded. "I'm so scared." Bang. The blue flame suddenly dimmed. Chu Tianfeng let out a muffled groan and took a step back. His face turned pale. Meng Qi held a handful of 7th-grade spirit stones in her hand. There were at least 200 or 300 of them. She held her breath and stood beside Chu Tianfeng. Then she flicked a small firework. The firework flew into the sky and exploded. This was the communication tool that Su Junmo gave them. After seeing the firework, they would return quickly. Io. Amidst the delicate laughter, the Scarlet Fox girl in a red dress walked out. "What a beautiful little sister. Big sister likes you." She raised her slender hand, and a thick divine devouring vine rose up and pointed directly at Chu Tianfeng. "Little sister, come with big sister. Big sister will treat you well. The men here are all scoundrels. Don't fall for their tricks." The Scarlet Fox girl looked at Meng Qi with a smile. Her eyes wandered around, and she looked very charming. "Ayu Shuxiang. Come get lost." Chu Tianfeng was furious. He raised his hand, and flame soared into the sky and pounced towards the Scarlet Fox girl. "Io." The Scarlet Fox girl smiled and dodged. Her originally beautiful face looked even more charming under the illumination of the flames. She smiled and looked at Meng Qi with her charming eyes. "Little sister, look at them. They only know how to shout and kill. They are too boorish. They are not worthy of you. Come with big sister." Chapter 53. Meng Qi seemed to be frightened by the red-clothed woman. She hurriedly hid behind Chu Tianfeng and quickly poked her head out to take a look at the woman. When her eyes met the red-clothed woman's, she hurriedly looked away and whispered, "Who are you?" I won't go with you." She looked delicate, timid, and extremely pitiful, which was very suitable for her identity as a Foundation establishment cultivator. Chu Tianfeng had just seen her diligently setting up Dharma arrays in the open space with his own eyes, and he also knew how she planned to earn spirit stones. He had seen Meng Qi's calm and collected appearance countless times, so he was really not used to her current appearance. For some reason, when he saw her like this, Chu Tianfeng actually felt a chill down his spine. He knew that Meng Qi was trying to trick people for spirit stones. "No. Ain demon. Little sister." The red-clothed woman smiled sweetly. She waved her hand lightly, and Chu Tianfeng's circle of flames completely disappeared, leaving not even a wisp of smoke behind. The red-clothed woman took a step forward, and the divine devouring vine beside her raised its head and coiled around her, as if it was sticking out its tongue. When Meng Qi saw this, she shrank behind Chu Tianfeng again, and only poked her head out to look at the woman. "He can't protect you." The red-clothed woman pursed her lips, and the smile in her eyes deepened. As if to prove her words, she took a few more steps forward and waved her hand again. More than 10 shadows instantly pounced on Chu Tianfeng and Meng Qi, who were standing in the middle of the open space. "Even the Dharma arrays you painstakingly set up just now can't do anything to me," the red-clothed woman said with a smile. She had been following Meng Qi for a while, so she naturally saw what she had done just now. However, she was a foundation establishment cultivator, and she did not use any Dharma treasures. Even if the other party set up an inescapable net, she was not afraid. When the red-clothed woman said this, she looked at Meng Qi and Chu Tianfeng's expressions with satisfaction. Meng Qi clearly saw that the other party was still several zhang away from him. In the blink of an eye, that soft and slender hand had already brushed past her cheek. His slightly cold and slender fingers carried a faint fragrance of flowers. As soon as the fragrance entered his nose, Meng Qi felt dizzy. Her body swayed, and the woman in red smiled even more happily. "Don't worry, big sister will definitely treat you well. I like pretty and cute girls the most. Especially when you're acting like this." She leaned closer as she spoke, completely ignoring Chu Tianfeng. She took a deep breath beside Meng Qi's neck and said, "The truth." This was the second time that the woman in red had mysteriously approached Meng Qi. Her movements were extremely nimble. She suddenly came close and then suddenly went far away, all in the blink of an eye. However, this time, Meng Qi suddenly threw out all the spirit stones in his hand. The sparkling and translucent spirit stones instantly flew towards all the arrays in the open space. Meng Qi had practiced this technique no less than 1,000 times. The 4 extremes formation that her master taught her was mainly used to trap enemies, especially those with a much higher cultivation level than her. At this time, the time it took to inhale and exhale might save her life. Not only did he urge Meng Qi to memorize the array by heart, but as long as the materials were complete, he could set it up in a flash. Moreover, he especially taught her this technique and watched her practice it repeatedly, so that she could instantly sprinkle the spirit stones where she needed to and activate the array. The woman in red was only startled for a moment, but she quickly smiled happily. She was only a foundation-building cultivator. "This is?" Before the woman in red could finish her thought, her expression instantly changed. The open space that had been incomparably calm a moment ago suddenly lit up with fluorescent light, shooting straight into the sky and trapping her in the center. The woman in red was bewildered, and the dozen or so subordinates that she had summoned changed their expressions. They were also trapped in the array. "How can you?" The woman in red suddenly looked towards Meng Qi, but the other party had already pulled Chu Tianfeng's arm. Under his protection, they quickly retreated. She could only see 2 silhouettes surrounded by flames, landing directly outside the array. "Stop right there." The red-clothed woman's expression changed drastically. Her pleasant smile had completely disappeared. She stared at Meng Qi and asked sternly, "How can you know this array?" As the woman in red spoke, her long sleeves fluttered and she attacked the array. She wanted to immediately break out of the array, catch this little foundation-building cultivator, and interrogate him. She was too careless. Previously, when she saw him setting up the array, she thought there were only a few arrays that foundation-building cultivators knew, and she didn't care about any of them. Unexpectedly, the woman in red had just taken a step forward when a green gas gushed out. In an instant, apart from the light of the spirit stones, there was only the light green gas left in the open space. The green gas had a pungent smell. Just by smelling it, one could tell it wasn't anything good. "Hold your breath." The woman in red's gaze turned cold, and she coldly ordered her subordinates, "Stay where you are and don't move." She wasn't afraid of this little foundation-building cultivator's poison. Even if the other party... Ugh! Before the woman in red could finish her thoughts, she suddenly groaned. Although her subordinates obeyed her order and didn't dare to move, they all looked dazed and frightened. All of a sudden, their faces were covered with bees. Even the woman in red was no exception. There were too many bees, and they were so dense that they covered the sky and the earth. They almost turned the array in the open space into solid objects. When the bees stung them, they immediately turned into smoke and disappeared. However, the pain was real. In just a moment, the faces of all the beast cultivators who followed the woman in red were covered with red packets. What was even more terrifying was that there were too many bees, and they were squeezing around. Many of them even crawled into their sleeves or stung them through their outer robes. Most of them couldn't sting them through their clothes. However, there were always a few that could really sting them. In addition, the bees crawled into their sleeves and collars. In the blink of an eye, all the beast cultivators who followed the woman in red rolled on the ground and began to wail in pain. Good. Chu Tianfeng felt his back go numb. He didn't even know how to describe the scene in front of him. His ears were filled with buzzing sounds, and his eyes were filled with a dense swarm of bees flying back and forth. He subconsciously turned his head to look at Meng Qi, only to find that the girl was also staring at the array. So scary, Meng Qi murmured, but it's also very powerful. F***ck. Chu Tianfeng wanted to roast her. Big sister, didn't you know it was this powerful before you used it? 4 Extremes Array. It's the 4 Extremes Array. The woman in red screamed. Her sharp voice instantly pierced through the clouds. How can you? Who the hell are you? She cast a spell, no longer caring about her subordinates who were still rolling on the ground and wailing, and barely managed to protect herself. The transparent barrier separated the densely packed bees. If she was too close, she could still see them crawling around on top of the barrier. The woman in red was shocked and scared, completely panicking. The 4 Extremes Array was too intimidating in the demon realm. In fact, if she tried a little, she would find that with her realm, she could completely break out of the array in half an hour at most. But she didn't dare to move at all. Countless emotions flashed through the woman in red's eyes, and she looked at Meng Qi with inexplicable horror. This young female cultivator, who was only in the foundation building realm, looked so calm and composed. Her gaze was as clear as a cold mountain spring. Separated by the constantly flying and crawling bees, the woman in red felt that the elegant girl in front of her was so terrifying. Gradually, she even overlapped with the few great celestial demons in the demon realm whom she didn't even dare to mention behind her back. She murmured and opened her mouth, feeling that her knees were so weak that she almost couldn't stand. Those great celestial demons were all the most outstanding adults in the celestial demon White Tiger royal family. Especially that one. The woman in red shuddered and didn't dare to continue thinking. She suddenly knelt down on one knee, and her voice became hoarse. Sir, I'm willing to follow you from now on. Please spare my life. My lord. Chu Tianfeng was dumbfounded. He was a golden core cultivator. Although he was a Dharma cultivator and didn't know much about arrays, he could still see that the array set up by Meng Qi was very powerful. However, this celestial demon in front of him, who was at least a rank 4 demon, only needed to deal with these arrays like how she dealt with his defensive Dharma spells. At most, she could break out of the array in half an hour. Meng Qi narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at the woman in red. This woman in red was the leader of this group of demons. Seeing how easily she dealt with Chu Tianfeng, she was at least a rank 4 demon. And the divine devouring vine beside her, she was the most valuable spirit stone. Meng Qi spent a lot of money buying array materials. If she didn't catch a few rank 4 demons, she was worried that she wouldn't be able to recoup her capital. However, Su Junmo wasn't back yet, so she couldn't force this girl to risk her life. Meng Qi looked up at her. What's your name? I'm Xing. The woman in red said respectfully. Xing. Before Meng Qi could continue speaking, Su Junmo's voice suddenly came from the tree behind them. You actually dared to cross the line. Did Xikong Yin get killed by the demon ancestors before he could tell you? Su Junmo. Xing suddenly looked up, and the last bit of doubt in her eyes completely disappeared. Su Junmo was actually following this foundation establishment cultivator. What was there to doubt? Xing immediately knelt down and prostrated herself on the ground. She said respectfully to Meng Qi, Please have mercy, sir. Su Junmo. He choked and glanced across the entire field. F***ck. He also wanted to kneel. It really was the Four Extreme Formation. Su Junmo had followed his master for a long time. Although he wasn't skilled in formations, he had seen and heard a lot. The Four Extreme Formation was the most famous killing formation in the Yao world. The so-called Four Extremes corresponded to the four cardinal directions: east, west, north, and south. 10,000 years ago, the ancestor of the Sky Yao White Tiger clan used the Four Extreme Formation to fight against four great Sky Yao of the same realm as him. The four great Sky Yao encountered different situations after entering the Four Extreme Formation. They were either trapped in place for a long time without being able to break through, or they were chased by countless sharp weapons, or tens of millions of Yao cultivators were forced to fight to the death with those who entered the formation, or tens of thousands of poisonous insects of the Yao world attacked and trapped those who entered the formation. After that battle, the name of the Sky Yao White Tiger and the Four Extreme Formation shook the entire Yao world and allowed them to secure their position as one of the royal families of the Sky Yao. Yuwenba. Later generations of Yao lords were all born from the Sky Yao White Tiger clan. More and more members of the Yao World Council of Elders were from the Sky Yao White Tiger clan. If not for the fact that they didn't have many descendants, their numbers would be far less than other Sky Yao. Perhaps the entire Yao world, or even the entire ninth heaven, would belong to them. Su Junmo understood a little why Xikongxing was so fearful. 10,000 years ago, one of the great Sky Yao killed by his master's Four Extreme Formation was the Crimson Fox's ancestor. After killing the Crimson Fox's ancestor, the White Tiger's ancestor held the Yao Lord token and demoted the Crimson Fox from a Sky Yao noble to an ordinary demon. Since then, the Crimson Fox race had almost collapsed. Otherwise, they wouldn't have secretly nurtured the divine devouring vine. Su Junmo could actually imagine how fearful the Crimson Fox race's descendants were of the Four Extreme Formation. He just didn't expect that Xikongxing, a woman who used her beauty to be so domineering and fearless in the Yao world, would be so fearful. He slowly walked to Meng Qi's side and looked at Xikongxing, who was trembling on the ground. He couldn't help but cough softly. "Are you going to let her go?" "She's a fourth-stage demon," Meng Qi said calmly. "The divine devouring vine beside her is of the same value as her." Cough, cough, cough. Su Junmo was stunned for a while before he realized what Meng Qi was saying. Xikongxing was even more so. The entire Yao was stunned. She subconsciously looked up. The array gradually quieted down, and the bees also slowly disappeared. Only a few were still flying slowly in the air. Not to mention Xikongxing, even her subordinates were no longer afraid. However, they were still lying on the ground softly, as if all their strength had been sucked out. Their spirit seas were empty, and the red and swollen bumps on their faces and bodies were still painful and itchy. Everyone tacitly lay still, afraid that if they moved, something would happen again. "My lord." Xikongxing looked at Meng Qi blankly. "I'm indeed a fourth-stage demon cultivator. I'm willing to sacrifice my soul and be loyal to you from now on. I'll serve you and never dare to disobey you." Cough, cough. Xikongmo couldn't stand it anymore. Compared to Xikongyan, he didn't hate Xikongxing as much. She was a little domineering, but as far as he knew, she had never hurt a cultivator from the three realms before. In the demon realm, she had the intention of helping the weak and getting rid of the strong. She was quite nice to female Yao cultivators. Many female Yao cultivators who were bullied were willing to seek her help. He wanted to help Xikongxing and reminded her. "When did you come to the three realms?" "I just arrived today." Xikongxing reacted and lowered her body again. "I've never hurt any cultivator, and I don't plan to hurt any cultivators. Father sent me here to find Mother, who left us to the three realms 100 years ago." Meng Qi. Su Junmo looked at Meng Qi. "She's indeed not a guy like Xikongyan. She can be trusted." He paused. During this period of time with Meng Qi, Su Junmo felt that he had grasped some of Meng Qi's temper. "Speaking of which, you're quite similar to her. She's also very nice to female cultivators in the demon realm. When some female cultivators who were bullied came to her, she would always stand up for them. She's quite famous among female cultivators in the demon realm." Mengqi didn't speak. Su Junmo said again. Aren't you also very nice to female cultivators? You're quite ruthless to male cultivators when you ask for spirit stones, but very generous to female cultivators. Is that so? Mengqi didn't think so herself. She used to treat everyone equally, but now she was just trying to prevent herself from being unlucky. Moreover, Xing's father is quite different from the rest of the Crimson Fox race. He's aloof from worldly affairs, and is a famous tycoon in the Crimson Fox race. She's also the only daughter in the family, so she has a lot of spirit stones. Su Junmo hurriedly added. As he spoke, he gave Xing a look. Xing was stunned and still couldn't react. Her father was indeed famous for being aloof from worldly affairs in the Crimson Fox race. However, the demon realm revered power. Countless people mocked the father and daughter in front of and behind their backs, saying that it was useless for them to lie on a pile of spirit stones. They were the biggest idiots in the Crimson Fox race. Su Junmo sighed softly and could only explain. He pointed at Mengqi and then at Xing and the subordinates behind her. She's going to capture you and exchange you for spirit stones. You and your divine devouring vine are worth 200 grade 8 spirit stones. Your subordinates are worth 200 grade 7 spirit stones each. Xing felt a wave of dizziness in her head. Because her father only liked to earn spirit stones, she was also mocked by the Crimson Fox race since she was young. So this lord also likes spirit stones? Xing didn't know why, but she suddenly felt a warm feeling in her heart. It was as if the grievances and mockery she had suffered since she was young were nothing. Someone who knew the four extremes array and could make Su Junmo follow him. Such a powerful lord also likes spirit stones. Xing immediately took out a brocade pouch from her storage bag and held it in her hands respectfully. My lord, here are 100 grade 9 spirit stones. I'm willing to use them to buy myself and my subordinates. When she spoke up to hear, she lightly bit her lower lip as she thought about Xing's words and explained. Actually, these people aren't this servant's subordinates. They're all female demon cultivators that this servant saved. They're willing to follow this servant because they're grateful to this servant. Then she respectfully said to Mengqi, they're all here to help me. My lord, please spare them. Mengqi, Su Junmo continued to persuade him. Xing is indeed not bad. Just let her go. Mengqi's gaze landed on Xing's face. I'll take the divine devouring vine away. I can let you all go. Thank you, my lord. Xing prostrated on the ground again. Those female demon cultivators who followed her all struggled to get up and kneeled. Thank you, my lord. You don't have to call me my lord. Mengqi waved his hand. You don't have to call yourself my servant. I don't need followers. I believe in Su Junmo. But in the future, don't bring the divine devouring vine to the Trichiliocosm. Yes. Xing lowered her head. I understand. She looked up at Mengqi and took out another brocade pouch. Then, she waved her hand and put away all the divine devouring vines that belonged to her and the other female demon cultivators. Then, she lowered her head and held the 2 brocade pouches in her hands. Su Junmo waved his sleeves and took the 2 brocade pouches and handed them to Mengqi. Mengqi did not stand on ceremony. She really needed spirit stones now, so she kept them all in her own storage bag. My lord. Ah. Ms. Meng. As soon as Xing spoke, she remembered that Mengqi had said that she could not call her my lord. Call me Mengqi. Mengqi said calmly. It's okay, Mengqi said. Names are used to address people. There's no such thing as respect. Yes. Xing looked at Mengqi, and a glint flashed across her eyes. Can I be called Mengqi like Su Junmo? Mengqi. Anyway, Chu Tianfeng was also calling her that now, so she did not care. She nodded. Mengqi. Xing then continued. I'll let them go back, but can I stay in the Trichiliocosm? I'm here to find my mother. My father missed my mother too much and hurt his Tao foundation. His cultivation level has not improved for 100 years. I'm afraid. She lowered her head sadly, revealing her slender and fair neck. I want to find my mother and ask her to go back and see my father. So Mengqi, please let me stay in the Trichiliocosm. Meng Qi could only look at Su Junmo again. Su Junmo nodded slowly and sighed. Her father is also infatuated. Okay. Meng Qi nodded. Then Meng Qi. Si Kongxing smiled happily. Her face was stunning, and she was dressed in red makeup. When she smiled, she was born with the charm and brilliance of the Crimson Fox clan. She was extremely charming. Meng Qi was a little stunned. Can I follow you? Si Kongxing asked carefully. I don't know where to find my mother, and I don't know anyone in the Trichiliocosm. I don't know anything, so can I stay by your side? Then you have to make a soul oath. Su Junmo was still worried about the Crimson Fox clan. When you're in the Trichiliocosm, you will never hurt Meng Qi. Yes. Si Kongxing immediately put her index finger and thumb on her chest. I swear on my soul that I will never hurt Meng Qi in this life. If I violate this oath, the god ancestor will abandon me, and the light of the stars will never shine on me. After Si Kongxing made the oath, she stood up happily. Su Junmo shook his head and waved his hand. Her subordinates were all sent back to the demon realm in an instant. Si Kongxing looked around and looked at the item in Su Junmo's hand. She did not say anything. It was normal for Su Junmo to follow and protect a lord who knew the four extreme arrays, even if he was a foundation establishment cultivator. Meng Qi. Si Kongxing took the initiative to ask, where are we going now? Her dress was like fire, and her eyes were like stars. Her face was stunning. To be able to give birth to such a beautiful daughter, her mother must also be a beauty. Meng Qi stared at her for a while. He thought about all the people he had met in his previous life, but he could not find a female cultivator he knew who could give birth to such a beautiful daughter. We still have to catch the demon cultivator with the divine devouring vine, Meng Qi said. It was still early. If they could catch one more, they could exchange it for 100 spirit stones. Although he knew that it was not very possible, the auction house might only be short of a few hundred spirit stones. I'll help you. Si Kongxing immediately said. The one leading the team here this time is the grandson of the seventh elder, Si Kong Changlai. She snorted and said disdainfully. When he was in the demon realm, he often bullied the weak and snatched beautiful female cultivators. Among the girls that Su Junmo sent back, 2 of them were snatched by him. After a night of pampering, he casually threw them to his subordinates. Luckily, I saw them and brought them back in time. Otherwise, they might have been tortured to death. Si Kongxing became angrier as she spoke. But I couldn't save them in time. I don't know how many girls were ruined by him. Meng Qi, let's catch him, castrate him, and exchange him for spirit stones. I'll help you. Okay. Meng Qi nodded and asked, he's also a rank 4? Yes. Si Kongxing said. And he has many subordinates. At least 40 to 50 of them. Among them, 6 or 7 are just rank 4. The rest are all rank 3. Meng Qi quickly calculated. Okay. Let's catch them. Let's use the 4 extremes formation. Si Kongxing said. Si Kong Changlai will definitely be scared to tears. She snorted. He often claims to be a direct descendant of Ancestor Fox. The 4 extremes formation will definitely frighten him even more. Okay. Meng Qi said. I'll fix the formation. As she spoke, she turned to look at Su Junmo and Chu Tianfeng. Then, she looked at Qin Xiaoma, who had just slowly walked out from the shadows and was still somewhat wary of Si Kongxing. Meng Qi, let them go find Si Kong Changlai. Si Kongxing said. It's enough for me to stay behind and protect you. None of the 3 of them can do it. Meng Qi didn't immediately agree. She took out the brocade pouch that Si Kongxing had just given her from her storage pouch and said to Qin Xiaoma, according to what we said before, we'll divide the spirit stones according to contribution. Just now you were the bait to lure the enemy. In addition to the previous debt, I'll write off it and give you 5 more spirit stones. Meng Qi said. Qin Xiaoma, once this matter is over, I'll find you to continue the unfinished business. You don't have to stay behind now. Chu Tianfeng looked at Qin Xiaoma gloatingly, and felt a wave of satisfaction in his heart. Who told you to pretend to be poor and no money? Now you've been driven away, right? You deserve it. Oh. Qin Xiaoma's expression didn't change. I'm also short of money. I also want to stay and earn some spirit stones. He never thought that one day he would actually say something like, I want to earn spirit stones, without batting an eyelid. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.